Deep in the Theban hills, nestled on the west bank of the Nile, lies a site unlike any other in Egypt. This is Deir el-Medina. It is a place that holds the secrets of ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives. For nearly 400 years, this village housed the master craftsmen of the New Kingdom. These were the artisans, the stonemasons, the painters who constructed and decorated the magnificent royal tombs. They worked in the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. Their hands shaped the eternal resting places of pharaohs like Tutankhamun and Ramesses the Great. They called their village Set Mat, meaning the place of truth. This ancient community existed from roughly 1550 to 1070 BC, through the 18th dynasty, 19th dynasty and 20th dynasty. It was a purpose-built settlement, established by the pharaohs to house the elite workforce responsible for their afterlife preparations. The location was deliberately isolated, hidden away in a natural amphitheatre of rock. This seclusion was intended to protect the secrets of the royal necropolis. The men who lived here possessed skills of immense value. Their knowledge of tomb construction and decoration was a state secret. The village itself was therefore carefully guarded and managed directly by the vizier, the pharaoh's highest official, ensuring its inhabitants remained separate from the wider population of Thebes. The story of Deir el-Medina does not end with the decline of the New Kingdom and the abandonment of the royal necropolis. Centuries later, during the Christian era, the village found a new purpose. Its small temple, originally dedicated to the goddess Hathor and the deified pharaoh Amenhotep I, was transformed. It became a Coptic Christian church and later a monastery. This monastery was dedicated to Saint Isidorus the Martyr. It is from this later chapter of its history that the site derives its modern Arabic name, Deir el-Medina, which translates to Monastery of the City. In this documentary, we will journey back in time. We will explore the dusty streets and silent houses of this remarkable village. We will uncover the daily lives, the beliefs and the struggles of the people who lived here. We will not be focusing on the grand pharaohs or the monumental temples that dominate our popular image of ancient Egypt. Instead, we will delve into the lives of the individuals who made it all possible. Join me as we peel back the layers of sand and time to reveal the intimate and detailed world of Deir el-Medina, a community that has left us an unparalleled legacy of its existence. What makes Deir el-Medina so exceptionally important is the sheer volume of information its inhabitants left behind. Unlike any other settlement from the ancient world, this village provides us with a continuous documented account of community life. This record spans almost 400 years. It is a treasure trove of written material preserved by the dry desert climate. The artisans of Deir el-Medina were highly literate. They recorded everything. They wrote on countless fragments of pottery and flakes of limestone known as ostraca and on papyrus. These texts were the notepads and official records of their time, capturing the minutiae of their existence in stunning detail. We have records of their work rosters, wages, and rations from the state. We can read their private letters about family quarrels, friendships, and anxieties. Legal documents reveal how they resolved disputes, arguments over property, accusations of theft. We can study religious beliefs through hymns and prayers, and even read about medical concerns and remedies they used. This immense archive allows us to reconstruct the social fabric of the community with clarity. The archaeological remains of the village perfectly complement this textual evidence. Excavations unearthed the entire settlement, over 70 houses, a central street and a protective wall. We can walk through the floor plans of their homes, see the ovens used to bake their bread, and identify small household chapels. The village had its own cemetery with decorated tombs that mimic royal tombs on a smaller scale. This combination of ruins and text provides a uniquely holistic view of life. French archaeologist Bernard Bruyère began excavating the site in 1922. For decades, he and his team uncovered the village, its tombs, and the great rubbish pits where thousands of ostraca were discarded. His work produced one of the most thoroughly documented accounts of daily life from antiquity. Deir el-Medina is not just another ruin, it is a living museum, a place where we can hear the voices of ancient Egyptians, understand their society, and appreciate the intricate details of a community that thrived over 3,000 years ago. Walking through the ruins of Deir el-Medina today, one can still sense the organized nature of the community. The village was not an organic settlement that grew over time. It was a planned town laid out on a clear grid. A long, straight street, just a few meters wide, runs down the center. On either side of this thoroughfare, houses were built in neat rows, sharing party walls like modern terrace houses. The entire settlement was enclosed by a thick mud brick wall. A single gate, guarded day and night, controlled all entry and exit. This design speaks of purpose and control, a self-contained world created specifically for the pharaoh's elite workers. The houses themselves were remarkably uniform. A typical home consisted of 4 main rooms. The first room served as a public reception area. Beyond this lay private living quarters. At the very back was the kitchen, and a staircase leading to the roof. Life was lived both indoors and outdoors. The flat rooftops were essential living spaces used for sleeping during the hot summer months, for catching the evening breeze, and for storage. The narrow street was an extension of the home, where neighbours socialized and children played. Daily life in Deir el-Medina was governed by a strict and predictable rhythm. The workforce was divided into 2 teams, or gangs, the left side and the right side, mirroring the 2 sides of a royal tomb. Each gang was led by a foreman. The men worked an 8-day week, followed by 2 days of rest. Their workday began at dawn. They walked from the village over the high pass to the Valley of the Kings. About an hour. They spent the day in the dark, stuffy tombs, carving and painting by flickering oil lamps. The work was highly specialized. Draftsmen, sculptors, painters. The men lived in temporary huts near the Valley of the Kings, returning to the village only for their 2-day weekend. Rest was for family, tending personal affairs and participating in village religious festivals. While the men were the official state employees, the women of Deir el-Medina were the pillars of the community's domestic and economic life. With their husbands away, women were responsible for managing the household entirely on their own. Women enjoyed relatively high legal and social status. Records show they could own property, they could inherit, they could dispose of property in their own right, and they could bring lawsuits before the local court. Textile production was central. Women spun thread and wove linen cloth. Linen was a valuable commodity. Women could trade surplus cloth for necessities like extra food, pottery or services. Women also played a key role in religious life. They managed household shrines, made offerings to family ancestors, and kept protective gods like Bez and Tawere, associated with childbirth and home protection. In a small, enclosed community like Deir el-Medina, disputes were inevitable. Most minor disagreements and civil cases were handled by a local council, known as the Kenbet, composed of the leading men of the village. The legal ostraca give us a fascinating insight into the kinds of problems the villagers faced. The cases deal with everything from disputes over the ownership of a donkey to unpaid debts, theft of tools, and property inheritance arguments. The work of a tomb builder was physically demanding and often dangerous. The texts mention physicians and scorpion charmers. These treatments often combined practical medicine with magical spells. Life in the place of truth was not always peaceful. The most famous example of this is the series of labor strikes that occurred during the reign of Ramesses III. Their rations of grain were weeks overdue. Faced with starvation, the artisans took unprecedented action. The men laid down their tools and marched out of the village, towards the great mortuary temples. They staged a sit-in, shouting, "We are hungry." This was a bold and risky act of defiance. Their actions represent the first recorded strikes in human history. The decline of the New Kingdom brought other problems, most notably a wave of tomb robbing. Shockingly, the records show that some of the very men from Deir el-Medina, those entrusted to guard the secrets of the necropolis, were involved in these crimes. This breakdown of order marks the beginning of the end for the village, a final, scandalous chapter in the life of this extraordinary community. Deir el-Medina stands as a singular testament to the power of preservation. It is a time capsule that has gifted us an intimate and deeply human portrait of a community that thrived over 3 millennia ago. This combination allows us to move beyond the grand, impersonal narrative of pharaohs and pyramids. We see them not as a faceless workforce, but as individuals with names, families, and distinct personalities. We read their private letters, witness their legal disputes, and even learn of their health problems. This level of detail is unparalleled, offering a microcosm of New Kingdom society. We discover the vital roles played by women. We see state employees who were conscious of their rights, and a community that could govern and care for itself through its own local institutions. Ultimately, the story of Deir el-Medina is a profound reminder that history is made not just by kings and conquerors, but by everyday people. In the dusty remains of their homes and the delicate script on a pottery shard, we find a connection that transcends time. Deir el-Medina provides an invaluable window into the past, forever changing our view of the ancient world by showing us in vivid detail how ordinary people lived extraordinary lives. The sands of time have long concealed the daily lives of those who lived in ancient Egypt. Yet beneath the scorching desert sun, whispers from the past remain. Tombs, adorned with intricate paintings and carvings, offer us a unique window into their world. These vibrant scenes, preserved for thousands of years, provide a glimpse into the lives of ancient Egyptians, including their children. The Egyptians believed in life after death, a realm mirroring their earthly existence. They meticulously decorated their tombs with scenes from their daily lives, hoping to carry these experiences into the afterlife. These images, frozen in time, offer us invaluable insights into their customs, beliefs, and even the games their children played. Stepping into the painted chambers of ancient Egyptian tombs is like stepping back in time. We are transported to a world teeming with activity where children are not merely passive observers but active participants in the bustle of daily life. The tombs, particularly those from the Old and Middle Kingdoms, are replete with scenes of children engaging in various activities. These images reveal a society that cherished childhood and recognized the importance of play. Children are often depicted alongside adults participating in chores and celebrations. Their presence in these scenes suggests a close-knit family structure where children were integral members of the household and community. The tomb of Mereruka, a high-ranking official from the 6th dynasty, offers a captivating glimpse into the world of ancient Egyptian children. Among the many vibrant scenes adorning its walls, we find depictions of children engaged in playful acrobatics. These agile youngsters twist and contort their bodies into impressive poses, showcasing their flexibility and balance. One scene depicts a group of children forming a human pyramid, their small bodies balanced precariously atop one another. Another shows a young girl gracefully arched backward, her hands touching the ground behind her. These acrobatic displays were not merely forms of amusement. They were likely part of religious festivals and celebrations, adding an element of spectacle and entertainment to these important events. The rock-cut tombs of Beni Hassan, dating back to the Middle Kingdom, provide further evidence of the importance of movement and dance in ancient Egyptian culture. These tombs, carved meticulously into the cliffs, stand as silent witnesses to the vibrant life that once thrived here. The tombs, belonging to provincial governors, feature scenes of children engaged in a whirling dance, their bodies spinning and twirling with joyous abandon. These images capture the essence of youthful exuberance and the communal spirit of the time. Similarly, the tomb of Keti showcases children caught in mid-twirl, their colourful garments swirling around them like vibrant blossoms. The vivid colours and dynamic poses bring these ancient scenes to life, allowing us to glimpse the past. These whirling dances, likely accompanied by music and rhythmic clapping, were not only a form of entertainment but also a way for children to express themselves creatively and connect with their cultural heritage. Through these dances, they celebrated their identity and passed down traditions from one generation to the next, ensuring the continuity of their rich cultural tapestry. The scorching Egyptian sun dictated much of daily life, and clothing was no exception. The intense heat and relentless sun shaped the way ancient Egyptians dressed, influencing their choice of materials and styles. Ancient Egyptian children, much like their adult counterparts, donned light and airy garments suited to the hot climate. These garments were designed to keep them cool and comfortable, allowing them to go about their daily activities without being hindered by the oppressive heat. Linen, a fabric woven from the flax plant, was the material of choice, its breathable nature providing comfort in the sweltering heat. The process of weaving linen was an essential skill, passed down through generations, ensuring that everyone had access to this vital fabric. Young children, particularly boys, were often depicted wearing little to no clothing, their bare skin allowing them to stay cool under the desert sun. This minimalistic approach to clothing was practical and efficient, helping them avoid overheating. Girls, as they grew older, would wear simple linen dresses, often held up by straps over the shoulders. These dresses were not only functional, but also allowed for a degree of modesty as they transitioned into adulthood. These lightweight garments allowed for ease of movement, essential for active children engaged in play and exploration. The freedom of movement provided by their clothing enabled them to fully enjoy their childhood, exploring the world around them without restriction. The ancient Egyptian concept of childhood extended beyond mere survival. It encompassed play and imagination. Archaeological excavations at Kahun, a workers' town associated with the pyramid of Senusret II, have unearthed a treasure trove of children's toys, providing tangible evidence of their playful pursuits. Among the finds are balls made of woven fibres, their simple construction belying hours of fun spent tossing and catching. Wooden sticks, resembling miniature javelins, hint at games of skill and accuracy, while small carved figurines of animals ignite the imagination, transporting children to a world of make-believe. These toys, simple yet enduring, offer a poignant reminder that the desire for play transcends time and culture. Play in ancient Egypt was not limited to physical activity, it also encompassed games of skill and strategy. These games were an integral part of daily life and were enjoyed by both the young and the old. Board games, in particular, were popular pastimes, enjoyed by people of all ages, including children. These games were often played in the evenings or during festivals, bringing families and communities together. Two of the most well-known ancient Egyptian board games are Senet and Mehen. These games have been discovered in various archaeological sites, indicating their widespread popularity. Senet, a game of strategy played on a long, narrow board with 30 squares, involved moving pieces according to the roll of dice. The game required careful planning and foresight to outmaneuver opponents. The game, often found depicted in tomb paintings, was believed to have religious significance, representing the journey of the soul through the afterlife. It was thought that mastering Senet could help one navigate the challenges of the afterlife. Mehen, named after the snake god, was played on a circular board resembling a coiled serpent. The unique design of the board added an extra layer of complexity to the game. Players would move their pieces around the board, attempting to capture their opponent's pieces. The game required strategic thinking and a deep understanding of the rules to succeed. These games not only provided entertainment, but also honed children's cognitive skills and strategic thinking. They were a vital part of education, teaching important life skills through play. The Nile River, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, was not only a source of sustenance but also a playground for children seeking respite from the desert heat. Swimming was a popular activity, and tomb scenes often depict children frolicking in the river's cool waters. One scene shows a group of children splashing and playing in the shallows, their laughter echoing through the ages. Another depicts children swimming alongside adults, their bodies sleek and agile in the water. The Nile, despite its inherent dangers, provided a much-needed escape from the scorching sun, offering children a chance to cool off, socialize, and engage in carefree play. The scenes etched into the walls of ancient Egyptian tombs offer us a poignant and enduring glimpse into the lives of children who lived thousands of years ago. These images, imbued with a sense of timelessness, remind us that childhood, with its inherent joys and wonder, transcends time and cultural boundaries. While our knowledge of ancient Egyptian childhood remains fragmentary, these glimpses into their world paint a picture of a society that valued play, creativity, and the importance of family. The toys they cherished, the games they played, and the laughter that undoubtedly filled their days are testaments to the universality of childhood experiences. The sun rises over the Nile. It paints the eastern sky in bands of orange and rose. The river becomes a mirror, calm and luminous. Tall papyrus reeds sway along the banks. A papyrus skiff glides silently. Two men aboard, scanning water and sky. They cast for fish and watch the reed beds for fowl. Such scenes fill Egyptian art, daily life woven with the river. The Nile was the heart of their world: water, transport and wild bounty. Today we explore that world, its creatures, its hunts, its faith. Animals meant food and materials, yet also power, art and the sacred. Mist lifts, fishermen pole between papyrus shadows. Egrets rise in white flurries over the shallows. Date palms catch first light. Villages stir awake. Water jars clink. A felucca unfurls to the breeze. Crocodile trails ripples. Ibises hunt along the mudflats. This river, breath by breath, awakens Egypt's day. The Egypt we know today is drier and barer than that of the pharaohs. Over millennia, climate shifts turned grassland to desert. Once the Nile formed a green corridor. Beyond it, open savannas spread. Elephants, rhinoceroses and hippos lived in and around Egypt. As rains waned and wetlands shrank, habitats vanished and herds retreated south. Farming, settlement and marsh draining compounded the loss. Elite hunts, status, sport and ivory pressed dwindling populations. What remains are images in paint and carved relief, witnesses to a wilder Egypt. Sources, inscriptions, tomb scenes and environmental studies trace this long decline. Gazelles, antelope and ostriches once roamed Egypt's fringes, creatures of open savanna. Pollen cores and dune records trace a stepwise drying, the green belt narrowing year by year. Rock art and Old Kingdom reliefs show hunts long vanished from the delta's edge. Hippos lingered longest in backwaters. Marshes shrank with canals, dams and fields. As herds retreated south toward Nubia, Egypt turned to trade for ivory and exotic skins. Memory survived in names, myths and motifs, echoes of a wilder, wetter land. Animals stood at the very centre of Egyptian religion. In carvings and temple light, the natural world mirrored the divine, signs of power, protection and renewal. Horus, lord of sky and kingship, bore the falcon's keen gaze of sun and moon. Anubis, jackal-headed guardian, guided souls at the necropolis, ever watchful. Sobek embodied the river's strength and peril, honoured to avert harm. Bastet's cats guarded grain and hearth. Chosen beasts like the Apis bull were revered as living gods. Workshops and shrines mummified cats, ibises, falcons, even crocodiles. Offerings made animals messengers, intercessors between people and gods. Thoth, ibis-headed scribe, kept wisdom, writing and measure. Wadjet's cobra, the uraeus, flared on crowns to ward chaos. Sacred lakes sheltered temple animals. Ritual processions carried their emblems through the streets. And always the river shimmered beneath it all. The Nile marsh, noisy, abundant, was a hunter's paradise. For nobles and kings, marsh hunts were sport and display. Papyrus boats slipped quietly through shallow reed beds. The throwing stick, simple, boomerang-like, could fell several birds aloft. Barbed harpoons, tethered by cord, anchored powerful fish, and at times small hippos. Scenes show families aboard, even a cat flushing birds from reeds. Yet the marsh held danger. Crocodiles and hippos could overturn a boat. Mastery here meant vigilance, precision, and respect for the wild. For elites, the hunt dramatized order, triumphing over marshland chaos. Trained hunting dogs aided parties, retrieving birds and guarding boats. Hunters hid in papyrus blinds, woven mats and green paint-masked movement. Seasons ruled the marsh. Northbound migrations packed skies at the inundation's end. After the catch, plucking, salting and deliveries, households and temples took their share. Temple quotas and taxes regulated the harvest each season. Scenes proclaimed status. Skill in the reeds echoed later in feast and song. Migratory ducks and geese filled the Nile marshes with meat and eggs. Skilled throwers struck birds mid-flight from a boat. A large split net, hidden with reeds, snapped shut when ropes were pulled. Decoys, living or carved, drew wild birds into the trap zone. A hidden watcher signalled at the perfect moment. With one pull, dozens, sometimes hundreds, were taken at once. The yield fed households and supplied temples with votive birds. Fowling blended craft, teamwork, and intimate knowledge of behaviour. Reliefs and texts preserved techniques with surprising technical clarity. Whistlers mimicked calls, ducks circled toward concealed nets. Boys splashed to flush birds, painted clappers and tossing sticks startled dense flocks. Handlers kept decoy geese tethered, wings clipped for safety. Captured birds were twisted, bled, plucked and salted on board. Temple quotas and taxes regulated marsh harvests each season. The Nile teemed with tilapia, catfish, mullet and mighty Nile perch. After the flood, stranded pools gave abundant easy catches. Here begins the fisher's craft, quiet methods shaped by water and season. From a papyrus boat, a patient fisher thrust a barbed bident into a single large fish. Spearheads advanced from bone and flint to bronze. Extra prongs raised the odds. Steady hands and timing did the rest. Angling used fibre or hairlines and unbarbed hooks of bone, shell, wood, later copper and bronze. Without barbs, one kept the line tight. Patience rewarded the dinner pot. From solitary skill, we turned to communal methods. Seine nets spanned side channels. Crews hauled shimmering catches together. Basket traps and wicker weirs guided fish into tightening throats. Lines of reed floats marked nets. Boys splashed to drive schools. Herb baits scented baskets. Patient anglers waited in papyrus shade. Some fished for leisure, an ancient calm we still recognise. Afterward, gutting, drying on racks, and smoking fish for transport. Some species were revered or taboo. Offerings returned to the sacred water. The river's economy moved by hands and habit, even as memory honoured the sacred. Then the current carried life onward. Big game hunting, lions, wild bulls, even elephants, was royal theatre of power. To master fierce creatures was to uphold Ma'at, order against chaos, before the watching court and land. Processions, banners and desert horizons framed the rite. Hippos shattered boats and trampled fields near the river's edge. Crews answered with heavy harpoons and stout ropes from papyrus skiffs. A struck hippo dove and fought an exhausting coordinated struggle amid the reeds. Lions were pursued in staged enclosures and open scrub. Royal beaters drove game toward archers behind shields. Composite bows and barbed arrows struck at range. Chariot teams wheeled through dust. Handlers loosed hounds, and finishing nets subdued the wounded. The bull signified strength and fertility. To bring one down affirmed masculine power. Offerings of captured bull heads marked victory and restored order. Triumphal stelae named hunters, tallying deeds before the gods. Text and image cemented sovereignty in the public imagination. These were not mere hunts, but open-air liturgies, performances of kingship where order overcame the wild. Thus power was proclaimed, remembered and renewed. Egyptians used every part: meat, skin, bone, fat, horn, sinew. Resourcefulness met artistry. Materials marked rank and craft. An economy of ingenuity. Little, if anything, went to waste. Tanned hides became sandals, shields, armor, bags, belts and bindings. Leather-covered furniture and served as writing surfaces. Bone and ivories, elephant and hippo, became tools, amulets and luxury fittings. Horns made vessels and instruments. Sinews bound and stitched a strong cord. Sinew and gut served as bowstrings, net cords and surgical sutures. Feathers, ostrich plumes, adorned fans, headdresses and royal regalia. Horn and shell became combs, needles, gaming pieces and inlay. Spotted felid skins, worn by Sem priests, signalled authority and divine connection. Rendered fat fed fires, lit lamps, and formed bases for ointments and perfumes. Catfish skins made glue, fish oil sealed boats. Workshops along quays traded by weight, craft met commerce daily. Tomb walls read like chronicles. Fish, birds, crocodiles, hippos abound. In paint and carved relief, scenes of catching, herding and offering turned daily life into scripture. Such images were made efficacious, provisions and pleasures for eternity, fixed in temple light. Detail is so precise that biologists can name species from paint and plaster. Art captures animals no longer in Egypt, ostrich, certain antelope, evidence of a different landscape now lost. Precision served devotion and record alike. Zoo archaeology reveals diets, domestication and hunting practices. From workers' villages, heaps of fish bones speak of staple fare and seasonal labour. Inscriptions and ledgers meet trays and microscopes. Evidence counted, compared and dated. CT scans unveil age, health and ritual killing. No unwrapping required. Mummified cats, ibises and crocodiles rest in rows. Labels and coffins name donors and prayerful intent. The sacred body becomes a readable archive. Text, image and remains converge, firm ground for historical insight. Pigments, malachite and ochre, keep colours vivid. Workshop grids fix proportions so species stay recognizable. Artists captured behavior itself. A preening ibis, a basking crocodile, life held still for memory. From tiny fish to desert lions, animals were woven into daily existence. Survival meant reading seasons and learning creaturely habits. Along the reeds and open water, life moved with the river's breath, yet the bond transcended need. Nature stood as a mirror of the divine. They hunted for survival and sport, and revered animals as sacred beings. Rituals multiplied. Animal necropolies spread across sacred landscapes. The elephant and hippo are gone from Egypt, but their memory endures. Art, writing and archaeology let us glimpse that lost world. In paint, bone and papyrus, the past speaks softly back. Egypt's identity was forged by river, floodplain and the creatures within. The Nile's cycles guide festivals, fishing, planting and prayer. Today, river life still echoes ancient lessons of balance. Museums and excavations keep their stories vivid for us. Respect for living waters remains Egypt's oldest wisdom. Guard the wild banks and creatures placed in our care. The river flows on. Egypt's wild heart endures. The ancient Egyptians are famous for many things. We remember their towering pyramids. We marvel at their golden treasures. We are fascinated by their strange animal-headed gods. But perhaps more than anything else, we are captivated by their intricate and profound beliefs about life after death. For the people along the banks of the mighty Nile thousands of years ago, death was not an end. It was a transition. A doorway to another existence, a journey to an eternal life they prepared for their whole lives. This belief was the very heart of their civilization, influencing everything they did. It shaped their society, starting with art, architecture, and religious practices. The magnificent tombs were not just burial places, they were eternal homes, built to last for millennia. The elaborate rituals were not simple farewells, they were essential procedures to ensure safe passage and rebirth. From the pharaoh in his golden palace to the humble farmer in his mud brick house, every Egyptian shared the hope of life beyond the grave. To understand them, we must look at their relationship with death. They weren't obsessed with death. They were obsessed with life. Their preparations were an expression of love for life. They wanted their joys to continue forever. This desire for eternity unlocks their complex world, where living and dead often blurred. This is a journey back in time. Their ideas changed over thousands of years, growing more complex. We will explore the cosmos, their powerful gods, and the rise of writing. We will see the soul's perilous journey through the underworld and the final judgment. It is a story of hope, fear, and the human quest for immortality. In ancient Egypt, religion was not separate from daily life. It was woven into the very fabric of society, a constant presence that connected everyone. At the center of this religious web was the powerful concept of the afterlife. This was not a belief reserved for a select few priests or nobles. It was a universal truth that united all Egyptians, providing a shared purpose and a common understanding of their place in the universe. The gods they worshipped were deeply involved in this process. Osiris, king of the underworld, Anubis, guide of souls. Both played crucial roles in the journey of the dead. Their stories and powers gave shape and meaning to what happened after death. The Egyptians believed that a proper burial was absolutely essential. It was the first and most critical step in securing a place in the afterlife. Without the correct rituals and a protected tomb, the soul could be lost forever, condemned to a restless and unhappy existence. This is why they invested so much time, effort, and resources into their funeral practices. Elaborate tombs, careful preservation through mummification, wealth of objects buried with the dead, all part of a grand strategy to defeat death and equip the deceased for a new life. The development of writing was a revolutionary moment for these beliefs. It allowed ideas to be written down, standardized, and shared more widely than ever before. Local traditions, spoken myths, could now be recorded in powerful texts. Sacred writings inscribed on tomb walls, papyrus scrolls, and coffins acted as guidebooks for the dead. They contained spells, prayers, and maps to help the soul navigate the dangers of the underworld. Writing the texts was itself a magical act, giving them power in the spiritual realm. These afterlife texts became a cornerstone of funerary culture. They provided a detailed script for the soul's journey. Pyramid texts, earliest for royalty. Coffin texts, available to more people. Book of the Dead, magical protection for those who could afford it. These texts reveal deep anxiety about the afterlife, but also incredible ingenuity, ensuring a safe arrival in paradise. The journey to the afterlife, as imagined by the ancient Egyptians, was far from simple. It was a difficult and hazardous voyage through a complex spiritual landscape known as the Duat, or the underworld. This realm was filled with terrifying demons, strange obstacles, and gates guarded by fearsome beings. The deceased soul would have to face a series of trials and tests to prove their worthiness. They could not make this journey alone. They relied on the knowledge contained within their funerary texts, which provided the secret names and magic spells needed to pacify the guardians and overcome the dangers that lay in wait for them at every turn. The climax of this perilous journey was the final judgment. This dramatic event took place in the Hall of Two Truths, presided over by the god Osiris. Here, the heart of the deceased, which the Egyptians believed was the seat of intelligence and memory, was weighed on a giant set of scales. It was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice. If the heart was heavy with sins, it would be devoured by a terrifying monster called Amit, and the soul would cease to exist forever. This was the ultimate fear for an Egyptian, not just death, but total annihilation. However, if the scales balanced, it meant the deceased had lived a righteous life. They would be declared true of voice and be granted entry into the afterlife. This was not a return to their old life on earth, it was something far better. A rebirth into a perfect eternal existence. The soul would be reunited with its preserved body, the mummy, and become a blessed spirit. They would live on in a paradise known as the Field of Reeds, or Seket Aru. This was an idealized version of Egypt, a land of endless harvests, beautiful waterways, and joyful reunions with loved ones who had gone before them. This promise of a glorious rebirth was the ultimate goal. It was the powerful motivation behind the pyramids, the mummification, and the complex rituals that defined so much of ancient Egyptian culture. Their entire system of belief was designed to transform the terrifying finality of death into a hopeful new beginning. It was a testament to their desire for justice, their belief in cosmic order, and their unwavering conviction that life, in its best and most perfect form, was meant to last for eternity. To secure their place in the eternal paradise, the ancient Egyptians developed elaborate funeral practices, each step designed to protect and guide the soul on its perilous journey. At the heart of these rituals stood the tomb, a sacred home for the deceased's body and a gateway to the afterlife. Early rulers were buried in simple underground chambers, but as beliefs evolved, so did their monuments. The majestic pyramids of the Old Kingdom rose from the desert sands, serving not only as tombs, but as engines of resurrection. Their shape, pointing skyward, symbolized a staircase to the heavens. Lavishly decorated walls, hidden passages, complex traps, all worked together to defend against grave robbers and spiritual threats alike. Inside these tombs, the Egyptians placed everything the soul might need: food, clothing, amulets, shabtis, tiny servant figurines. But perhaps the most vital tools were the afterlife texts. The earliest of these, the pyramid texts, inscribed on the walls of royal tombs over 4,000 years ago. These spells and prayers were reserved for the pharaohs, helping them navigate the dangers of the Duat and join the gods. As time passed, these sacred writings evolved. The coffin texts appeared, expanding access to powerful magic beyond royalty to nobles and high officials. Later still, the famous Book of the Dead emerged, a collection of spells written on papyrus scrolls, tucked beside the mummy in its sarcophagus. These texts provided step-by-step instructions, how to avoid pitfalls, recite the right words, and win the favor of gods and guardians. Each new generation added their own prayers and spells, reflecting changing hopes and fears. In this way, the afterlife text became a living tradition, one that shaped Egyptian culture for millennia. Tombs, rituals, sacred writings. Together they formed a protective shield, ensuring the journey to the Field of Reeds would not end in darkness, but in everlasting light. Across the millennia, the ancient Egyptians penned their hopes for eternity in ink and stone. Their funerary texts, more than mere words, became lifelines for the soul's voyage beyond death. Among these, the Book of the Dead stands as the most renowned. Unfurled on delicate papyrus, its spells and illustrations served as a passport, guiding the deceased through the shadowy corridors of the Duat, the underworld. Each scroll was unique, tailored to the individual's journey, filled with prayers, passwords, magical instructions to outwit dangers and win the favor of Osiris, judge of the dead. But the Book of the Dead was just one chapter in Egypt's sacred literature. Deep within royal tombs, the walls blossomed with the books of the netherworld. These cosmic maps charted the sun god Ra's nightly journey through 12 perilous hours of darkness. Their cryptic illustrations and hymns were reserved for pharaohs, depicting monstrous guardians, fiery lakes, the rebirth of the sun, an allegory for the king's resurrection and triumph over chaos. High above, on the ceilings of tombs, another genre unfurled, the books of the sky. These texts, like the Book of Nut, traced the goddess arching overhead, swallowing the sun at dusk, birthing it anew at dawn. They offered a celestial perspective, promising that, like the sun, the soul too could rise again. Each tradition offered a different map, a unique vision of the afterlife's challenges and rewards. Together they reflected Egypt's evolving beliefs that immortality was not guaranteed, but earned through knowledge, righteousness and ritual. As we gaze upon the faded ink of papyrus scrolls, the vibrant frescoes of tomb walls, the star-studded ceilings of ancient burial chambers, we glimpse a civilization obsessed with guiding its dead, not into oblivion, but toward a luminous eternity. Their texts were more than guides. They were promises etched in word and image, that the journey would not end in darkness, but in the everlasting light of the field of reeds. In the shadowed silence of Egyptian tombs, the quest for eternity took tangible form through the intricate art of mummification, an extraordinary ritual, both scientific and sacred. To the ancient Egyptians, the body was the vessel of the soul, and its preservation was vital for a successful journey into the afterlife. The process began soon after death. Specialist embalmers, often priests, washed the body and recited prayers to purify it. The most critical step followed. The removal of internal organs, liver, lungs, stomach, intestines were carefully extracted and placed within canopic jars. Canopic jar lids shaped as protective deities. These jars were more than containers. They symbolized guardianship over the vital essence of the deceased. The heart, thought to be the seat of emotion and intelligence, was usually left inside the body, destined to be weighed against the feather of Ma'at in the Hall of Judgment. The brain, considered less important, was removed and discarded. Next, the body was packed in natron, a natural salt, and left to dry for 40 days. Once desiccated, the embalmers wrapped the body in countless linen strips, inserting amulets between layers for protection. Each wrapping was accompanied by spells and incantations, invoking the god's favour and shielding the soul from harm. But mummification was only part of the journey. The tomb itself became a portal to the afterlife, filled with offerings, bread, beer, fruits, meats, jars of wine. Statues of servants called shabti were placed to work for the deceased in the next world. Jewelry, clothing, treasured possessions surrounded the body, reflecting a belief that the afterlife mirrored earthly existence, complete with joys and necessities. Priests played a crucial role, performing the opening of the mouth ceremony, ensuring they could breathe, speak and eat in the world beyond. These rituals and offerings were more than tradition. They were acts of devotion and hope. Every careful preparation echoed a profound faith that, with the right rites, the soul would awaken, thrive, and find peace in the lush fields of eternity. In this sacred process, the Egyptians sought not just to preserve the body, but to guarantee the soul's triumphant passage through the mysteries of death into the promise of everlasting life. As the tomb doors sealed and offerings settled into silence, the true journey of the soul began. A voyage mapped in sacred texts and painted on the walls of eternal chambers. In ancient Egyptian belief, death was not an end but a crossing, a passage from the living to the afterlife. Guided by spells from the Book of the Dead, the soul, the Ba, set out on its perilous journey. First it crossed the celestial Nile, ferried by the divine boatman. The river marked the threshold between mortal life and the world beyond. On the far shore, the soul entered the Duat, the underworld. Darkness and danger reigned. The Duat was a labyrinth of gates and guardians, rivers of fire and fearsome beasts. Each obstacle was a test. Gatekeepers demanded secret knowledge or a protective spell. Funerary texts, inscribed and recited, were the soul's only guide. At the heart of the Duat awaited the Hall of Judgment, presided over Osiris. The soul's heart was placed upon a golden scale and weighed against the feather of Ma'at. Anubis watched with impartial eyes, while Thoth recorded the verdict. If the heart was pure, the soul passed to the field of reeds, a paradise like earthly life. There the soul, reunited with loved ones, toiled in abundance and basked in eternal peace. If the heart was heavy with sin, Amit devoured it, and the journey ended in oblivion. Through these stages, crossing trial judgment, the Egyptians imagined a spiritual odyssey. Each peril and each prayer reflected a hope. With devotion, wisdom, and the favour of the gods, the soul could transcend death and awaken in the afterlife. With every tomb painting and funerary text, the ancients immortalized this voyage, a testament to their quest for immortality and their belief that the soul's story had only just begun. In the shadowed halls of the afterlife, beneath star-strewn ceilings and eternal columns, the soul faced its most crucial trial, the judgment of the dead. Here, in the awe-inspiring Hall of Judgment, the fate of every soul was decided, an event watched over by the mightiest deities of the Egyptian pantheon. At the heart of the hall, Osiris, lord of the afterlife, sat upon his golden throne, shrouded in regal linen and crowned with the white and red of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Before him, the scales of justice gleamed in the half-light, a symbol of perfect balance and truth. Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, guided the trembling soul forward. With careful hands, Anubis placed the soul's heart, believed to be the seat of memory, conscience, and emotion, on one side of the scale. On the other side rested the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and cosmic order. The moment was sacred and still. As the scales tipped, Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods, recorded every detail with unerring precision, his papyrus scrolls capturing the soul's fate for eternity. Watching nearby, Ma'at herself stood serene, her feather a radiant beacon of justice. But lurking at the foot of the scales was Amit, the fearsome devourer, her form part lion, hippopotamus, and crocodile, the three most dangerous beasts of Egypt. Her jaws parted in anticipation, ready to consume any heart weighed down by sin, dooming the soul to oblivion. If the heart balanced with Ma'at's feather, if the soul had lived with honesty, compassion, and respect for the gods, the path to the field of reeds opened. There eternal joy awaited. But if the heart was heavy with wrongdoing, Amit devoured it, and the soul was erased from existence, lost forever. This divine judgment was not only a test of deeds, but a measure of the soul's harmony with truth and order. For the ancient Egyptians, the weighing of the heart was both a warning and a hope, a reminder that every act in life echoed in eternity, and that the gods watched with wisdom and mercy. With each judgment, the Egyptians reaffirmed their most sacred belief, that to live justly was to be worthy of immortality, and that the ultimate reward, or punishment, awaited in the halls beyond death. Beyond the Hall of Judgment, where the fate of each soul was weighed with divine precision, lay another formidable trial, the Lake of Fire. In the ancient Egyptian imagination, this was no ordinary body of water. It was a churning, fiery expanse, its surface rippling with flames, annihilate, transform. For those souls whose hearts had not found perfect balance, the Lake of Fire was a place of dread and destruction. Here the unrighteous risked utter obliteration, their very essence consumed by the scorching waters, as punishment for a life lived in discord with Ma'at. This was the ultimate threat, the end of the soul's journey, the erasure of identity for all eternity. Yet the Lake of Fire was more than a pit of punishment. It was also a crucible of purification. Some souls, though burdened by imperfection, could endure the flames and emerge cleansed, their transgressions burned away by the fire's purifying touch. In this trial, by fire destruction renewal, the soul that survived the lake's ordeal was transformed, purified, reborn, worthy to continue its journey toward immortality. Fire itself held deep mythological significance for the Egyptians. It was a force of chaos, danger, light, regeneration. In sacred texts, fire was invoked by gods and priests alike to destroy evil, ward off chaos, renew the world at dawn. The Lake of Fire, then, was a testing ground, a place where the soul faced the duality of fire as a threat to the unworthy, as a promise of renewal for those who could endure. Ultimately, the Lake of Fire was not just a symbol of fear, but of hope. It reminded the living that even after death, the path to perfection was possible. The fires of trial could lead to spiritual rebirth. For the ancient Egyptians, the soul's journey was never truly over. It was a continual process of testing transformation, the pursuit of eternal harmony with the divine. After the soul has emerged from its trials, purified by fire, judged by the gods, and found worthy, it enters the long-awaited paradise of Sekhet Aru, the field of reeds. To the ancient Egyptians, this was the ultimate reward, a realm of eternal abundance, peace and joy. Sekhet Aru was imagined as a vast, sunlit expanse of fertile fields bordered by tranquil waterways, mirroring the lush banks of the Nile in its most perfect form. Here golden crops grew tall, and the air shimmered with the promise of endless harvests. Tomb paintings and sacred texts depict this paradise as an idyllic landscape, a place where the soul could plough fields that never failed, gather fruit that never spoiled, and rest beneath palms that never withered. But Sekhet Aru was more than just a land of plenty. It was a place of reunion and restoration. Loved ones long departed awaited each other, families reuniting in joy, friends and ancestors greeting the newly arrived soul. In this paradise all suffering and sorrow were left behind. The worthy would dwell alongside the gods and the blessed dead, sharing in feasts, music and laughter for all eternity. For ancient Egyptians, Sekhet Aru embodied the highest hope, that a life lived in harmony with Ma'at, the cosmic order, would be rewarded with everlasting happiness. The field of reeds was not a distant, abstract concept. It was a vivid vision of fulfillment, a promise painted on tomb walls and written into the Book of the Dead. In Sekhet Aru, the journey of the soul found its perfect conclusion. Here eternal life was not simply endless existence, but a state of harmony, joy and reunion. A reflection of everything the Egyptians cherished about life, made immortal. For them, the field of reeds was a testament to the power of hope, the beauty of the afterlife, and the enduring human longing for happiness beyond the horizon of death. For 3 millennia, the civilization of ancient Egypt flourished along the fertile banks of the River Nile. It was a land of remarkable continuity, unified under the singular rule of a divine king, the Pharaoh. This political stability came from Egypt's unique geography. The Nile, a predictable, life-giving artery, was the heart of the nation. It provided water and rich silt, sustaining agriculture and allowing surpluses. Those surpluses supported a complex state. They supported a priesthood and, when necessary, a formidable army. Surrounding this ribbon of green was a natural fortress. To the east, vast, inhospitable desert. To the west, the same punishing wasteland, the Red Land, sun-scorched and unforgiving. To the south, the Nile is interrupted by rocky rapids, the cataracts, barriers to naval traffic and invasion from Nubia. To the north, the great expanse of the Mediterranean Sea, a major obstacle in this era. This geographical isolation was the cornerstone of Egyptian security. It shaped the mindset and military doctrine for centuries. For much of early history, the primary concern was defense, not conquest. The goal: keep enemies out. Maintain the integrity of the borders, preserve the sacred order, Ma'at. So the military became a defensive instrument, to patrol the frontiers, to quell internal dissent, and to protect trade routes bringing valuable goods. The deserts were frontiers to be guarded against nomads, and the southern border with Nubia needed constant vigilance and imposing fortresses. Thus, the Egyptian military evolved slowly and reactively, driven by threats rather than grand expansion. It existed to secure the two lands, Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt. It acted as the pharaoh's strong arm to enforce his will and protect the people. The army's structure, its weaponry, its tactics, all shaped by a defensive posture. The story of how Egypt fought is inseparable from the story of the land itself, a civilization blessed by geography, defending its precious world from outsiders. The history of ancient Egypt spans an immense period, traditionally divided by historians into distinct kingdoms and intermediate periods. These divisions are not arbitrary. They reflect significant shifts in political power, cultural expression, and, crucially, military organization. Our journey begins around 3100 BC with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, marking the dawn of the Old Kingdom. During this age of pyramid builders, the military was a relatively simple affair. It consisted mainly of local levies called up by regional governors or nomarchs to serve the pharaoh in specific campaigns. They served primarily to secure borders, protect mining expeditions in the Sinai, and conduct raids into neighbouring Nubia to the south. Following the collapse of central authority at the end of the Old Kingdom, Egypt descended into a period of fragmentation known as the First Intermediate Period. During this time, regional warlords battled for supremacy, and the unified military of the pharaoh ceased to exist. The reunification of Egypt, heralding the start of the Middle Kingdom, was achieved through military conquest. The pharaohs of this new era learned the lessons of the past, establishing a professional, centrally controlled standing army to prevent such a collapse from ever happening again. The most dramatic transformation, however, came with the dawn of the new kingdom. This era was born from another period of foreign invasion and occupation by the Hyksos, a people from Western Asia who introduced revolutionary military technologies, the horse-drawn chariot and the powerful composite bow. After expelling the Hyksos, the Egyptian pharaohs adopted and perfected these new tools of war. They abandoned their traditional defensive posture and embarked on an age of unprecedented imperial expansion. The Egyptian military machine was reforged into an aggressive, professional fighting force, creating an empire that stretched from Nubia deep into the Near East, clashing with the Mitanni, clashing with the Hittite Empire. Over the course of this documentary, we will trace this remarkable evolution. We will explore the armies of the Old and Middle Kingdoms, with their simple infantry formations and defensive fortifications. We will then delve into the powerful combined arms military of the New Kingdom. We will examine its elite chariot corps, its organized infantry divisions, and its sophisticated logistical support. We will discuss the iconic weapons they wielded, the Khopesh sickle sword, the composite bow, and witness some of their most famous campaigns, including the legendary Battle of Kadesh. This is the story of how a nation, protected by the desert, built an army that first defended a kingdom and then forged an empire. During the Old Kingdom, the era famous for the construction of the Great Pyramids at Giza, the Egyptian military was a far cry from the imperial force it would later become. Its structure was fundamentally tied to the civilian administration of the state. There was no large, permanent, standing army in the modern sense. Instead, the pharaoh relied on a system of local levies. When a military campaign was required, the central government would issue a decree, and the regional governors, known as nomarchs, were responsible for mustering a quota of able-bodied men from the towns and villages under their jurisdiction. These recruits were ordinary farmers, craftsmen and labourers temporarily conscripted from their daily lives to serve the king. The most common military operations were police actions along Egypt's frontiers. Expeditions were regularly sent into the Sinai Peninsula to protect the state's valuable turquoise and copper mining operations from incursions by local Bedouin tribes. To the south, campaigns were launched into Nubia, not for outright conquest, but to secure trade routes, acquire exotic goods like ivory and gold, and to capture prisoners who could be brought back to Egypt as a source of labor. The equipment of these early soldiers was simple and effective for its purpose. The standard infantryman was armed with a long wooden spear tipped with copper or flint, and often carried a large, cowhide-covered wooden shield for protection. For closer engagements, he might wield a stone-headed mace or a copper battle-axe. Body armor was virtually non-existent, with most soldiers fighting in little more than a simple linen kilt. The famous Palermo stone, an ancient royal annal, records military actions from the earliest dynasties. It even records a campaign by King Sneferu that reportedly brought back 7,000 prisoners and 200,000 head of cattle from Nubia. However, this reliance on regional nomarchs to raise troops contained a critical weakness. The power of the central government depended entirely on the loyalty of these provincial leaders, a loyalty that would eventually falter and plunge Egypt into chaos. The magnificent stability of the Old Kingdom could not last forever. Towards the end of the Sixth Dynasty, around 2181 BC, the central authority of the pharaoh began to crumble. A combination of factors, including prolonged low Nile floods leading to famine, the immense cost of pyramid building and the growing power of the provincial nomarchs, led to the collapse of the state. As the power of the king in Memphis waned, the nomarchs, who had once been loyal governors, transformed into independent regional warlords. Egypt splintered into competing city-states, ushering in the First Intermediate Period. Warfare became endemic to the Nile Valley. Tomb biographies of local magnates, such as Anktifi of Hierakonpolis, are filled with boasts of their military prowess. They claimed to have fed their people when others starved and defended their domains in a fragmented land where military strength meant survival. Recruitment of foreign mercenaries increased, particularly Nubian archers. Known for their skill with the bow, Medjay warriors were highly sought after, adding a deadly element to Egyptian battlefields. Disunity ended through military force. From Thebes, a powerful family, the Intefs and Mentuhoteps of the 11th dynasty, began a long campaign to reunite the two lands. They systematically defeated their northern rivals, the rulers of Heracleopolis, in a protracted conflict that lasted for decades. Final victory by Mentuhotep Teku, around 2055 BC, was a triumph of military organization. He crushed the opposition, re-established a single government over Egypt, ending the First Intermediate Period and inaugurating the Middle Kingdom. The lessons of this civil war would not be forgotten. The new kingdom was born from a national struggle for liberation. The humiliating occupation of northern Egypt by the Hyksos during the Second Intermediate Period had shattered the traditional Egyptian sense of security and invincibility. When the Theban princes, beginning with Seqenenre-Tao and culminating with Ahmose-Fuz, finally drove the foreign rulers out of the Nile Delta, they did so with a newfound military zeal. The Egyptians realized that their natural desert barriers were no longer sufficient protection. The old defensive doctrine was cast aside and replaced by an aggressive new strategy of preemptive action and imperial expansion. The new kingdom pharaohs established Egypt's first truly professional national standing army. This was a permanent institution, highly organized, well-funded by the state, and offering a viable and respectable career path for ambitious young men. At its head was the Pharaoh, who was now portrayed primarily as a supreme warrior king, personally leading his troops into battle. The army itself was organized into large divisions, named after the great gods of the state, Amun, Ra, Ptah, and Set. Each division was a self-contained combined arms force of around 5,000 men, comprising multiple regiments of infantry and squadrons of chariots. While conscription continued to supply the bulk of the infantry, many men volunteered for service, drawn by the promise of steady pay, land grants upon retirement, and a share of the spoils of war. The military revolution of the new kingdom was driven by two transformative technologies, both introduced by their former Hyksos adversaries, the light horse-drawn chariot and the powerful composite bow. The Egyptian chariot was built for speed and maneuverability, not shock impact. It had a two-man crew, a driver controlling the horses and a warrior fighting from the moving platform. It was not a scythed Hollywood chariot, it was a mobile missile platform. The primary weapon was the composite bow. Made from laminated layers of wood, horn and sinew, it was shorter, far more powerful, and had greater range and penetration than simple self-bows. From a stable, fast-moving chariot, a skilled archer could rain volleys of arrows on infantry, disrupting enemy formations before they even came within spear range. The chariot corps were the elite aristocratic arm of the army. The new kingdom practiced combined arms tactics. Battles opened with chariot squadrons sweeping the enemy front. The infantry would then advance behind this mobile screen to engage the disordered enemy, while the chariots exploited success by pursuing fleeing enemies or striking the flanks and rear. The high point of expansion came under Thutmose III, the Napoleon of ancient Egypt. His first famous campaign ended at the Battle of Megiddo, where he crushed a coalition of rebellious Canaanite princes. The detailed annals of his campaigns are carved on the walls of Karnak, securing Levantine dominance for generations. But the Hittite Empire rose in Anatolia, a new, formidable rival. Seti I and his son, Rameses II, continued the struggle, setting the stage for a monumental confrontation over Syria and its valuable trade routes. The simmering conflict between the Egyptian and Hittite empires finally erupted into open war under the reign of the ambitious young pharaoh Rameses II. In the fifth year of his reign, around 1274 BC, Rameses marched north at the head of a massive army. The Hittite king, Muwatalli II, gathered a larger force, secretly positioning it to spring a trap. Rameses was deceived by Hittite spies and, believing Kadesh lightly defended, pushed ahead, leaving his other three divisions strung out over miles of road. As the Amun began to set up camp, the trap was sprung. Over 2,500 Hittite heavy chariots thundered across the Orontes River, smashing into the flank of the Ra division, still on the march. The Ra disintegrated in panic, and the chariots crashed into Ramesses' encampment. The Egyptian camp plunged into chaos. Rameses then displayed legendary courage, rallying his bodyguard and launching a desperate counterattack. Just as his small force nearly collapsed, the Nairin Egyptian relief troops arrived. They struck the disorganized Hittite chariots in the rear, turning the tide. By day's end, both armies were exhausted. Ramesses held the field but failed to capture Kadesh. The battle was essentially a strategic stalemate. Back in Egypt, however, Ramesses portrayed it as a glorious personal victory, covering temple walls with epic reliefs and inscriptions celebrating his lone heroism. Royal propaganda that shaped our view for millennia. The most iconic weapon of the New Kingdom was the khopesh. A sickle-shaped sword, it combined chopping power with the ability to hook and pull aside an enemy's shield. The infantry remained the true backbone of the army. The main body consisted of spearmen, forming the solid core of the battle line. They were supported by large regiments of archers whose powerful composite bows could unleash devastating volleys. Perhaps the most underappreciated element was logistical organization. An army of 20,000 campaigning hundreds of miles from home required a vast and continuous supply of food, water and equipment, a task managed by an army of scribes. This logistical mastery was the true unsung foundation of the pharaoh's imperial power. The long and storied history of ancient Egypt's military is a tale of remarkable adaptation and evolution. Shaped by geography, its core philosophy was defense. This was punctuated by the dramatic transformation of the New Kingdom, which forged a professional imperial army to build a vast empire. Its legacy is subtle but profound. The peace treaty that followed the Kadesh campaign, the earliest surviving international accord, proved the limits of conquest and the power of negotiated settlement. From the copper-tipped spears that defended the pyramid builders to the swift chariots that clashed at Kadesh, the Egyptian military evolved to meet the challenges of its time, preserving a unique civilization for an astonishing length of time. The echoes of the pharaoh's army live on in the temples and tombs they protected, monuments that survived millennia as a testament to the civilization they defended. Beneath the North African night, the Milky Way flows overhead, a celestial river that shaped the destiny of ancient Egypt. For Egyptians, the stars were more than distant lights. They were guides, gods, and the very clockwork of existence. Along the Nile, they looked to the sky to understand the rhythms of their world. Long before pyramids, Egyptians were astronomers tracking the moon, constellations and the cycles of the heavens. The sky was a divine map, essential for survival, faith and prosperity. Their observations predicted the Nile's floods, aligned monuments and created a remarkably accurate calendar. The heavens offered order and the promise of renewal in a chaotic world. Join us as we journey from ancient stone circles to star-aligned temples, uncovering how practical needs evolved into a spiritual cosmology. The legacy of Egypt's stargazers endures in the way we understand our sky today. In ancient Egypt, science and religion were inseparable. The sky was home to gods, and celestial bodies their manifestations. The sun god Ra, the moon god Thoth, and the immortal stars shaped every aspect of life. Predicting the Nile's flood was vital, and the heliacal rising of Sirius or Sopdet became the cornerstone of their calendar. Egyptians created a 365-day calendar, organizing agriculture, festivals and construction with cosmic precision. Astronomy was the engine of the state, the heart of religion and the foundation of the economy. The pharaoh's authority depended on maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order reflected in the heavens. From farmers to priests, all Egyptians lived by the rhythms of the stars. Understanding this connection unlocks the secrets of Egypt's enduring civilization. Egyptian astronomy began long before the pharaohs in the Green Sahara at Nabta Playa, where ancient people arranged stones to mirror the sky. These megaliths, predating Stonehenge, are among the world's oldest observatories. Over time, astronomical knowledge grew, culminating in the star-aligned pyramids of Giza, resurrection machines guiding pharaohs to the heavens. Temples like Karnak became cosmic instruments aligned to the solstice sun. Astronomy legitimized power and inspired awe. In Alexandria, Egyptian, Greek and Babylonian traditions merged, making it the scientific capital of the ancient world. Here, Ptolemy wrote the Almagest, shaping Western astronomy for centuries. Egypt's conversation with the stars left a legacy that endures to this day. To trace Egyptian astronomy's roots, we journey to a time when the Sahara was green and alive. Nomadic herders, guided by the stars, used the sky as compass and calendar. The sun, moon and constellations dictated migrations and survival. This was not formal science, but deep intuitive knowledge passed through generations. Celestial signals marked the coming rains and changing seasons. As the Sahara dried, these people migrated to the Nile, bringing their cattle, pottery, beliefs, and their astronomical wisdom. This knowledge, forged on the savannah, became foundational for Nile Valley civilization. The sky and earth were one, and understanding both was key to survival. The seeds of Egypt's greatness were sown by these early stargazers. Their legacy shaped the civilization that would rise along the Nile. In Egypt's western desert lies Nabta Playa, once a seasonal lake and gathering place for ancient nomads. Here, lines of standing stones form one of humanity's earliest astronomical instruments. The small stone circle, over 7,000 years old, marked the summer solstice and the arrival of monsoon rains. This celestial clock anchored their year and ensured survival. Larger megaliths align with the rising of stars like Sirius and Orion, creating a map of the night sky. Nabta Playa's alignments predate Stonehenge and the pyramids, revealing a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. These people organized to quarry and erect massive stones with astronomical precision. Nabta Playa is a silent monument to humanity's first astronomers. It shows our ancient desire to find order in the cosmos. Their achievements laid the groundwork for Egypt's later scientific wonders. Nabta Playa's stones were more than markers. They formed a complex system for tracking celestial cycles. Gates in the central circle aligned with the solstice sunrise, confirming the cosmic order and the coming rains. Beneath the sands, a reverently buried cow hints at the sacred link between cattle, the sky, and later Egyptian deities like Hathor. The alignments allowed for a reliable calendar, essential for planning migrations and rituals. This practical astronomy brought structure to their lives and shaped their future. The stones are evidence of abstract thinking and long-term pattern recognition. Nabta Playa's principles of alignment and calendar making were carried to the Nile Valley. There they evolved into the magnificent science of the pharaohs. The journey from desert stones to cosmic temples began here, under the ancient stars. The story of Nabta Playa and its stargazing inhabitants does not end in the desert. Around 3,800 BCE, the climate of North Africa shifted dramatically. The monsoons that had sustained the Green Sahara retreated south, and the land began its final transformation into the arid desert we know today. This profound environmental change forced a great migration. The cattle-herding peoples of the western oases packed up their belongings and moved east towards the one place where life could still flourish on a grand scale, the fertile, well-watered corridor of the Nile River Valley. This was a pivotal moment in human history. These migrants were not primitive hunter-gatherers. They were a people with a rich cultural and intellectual heritage. They brought with them their domesticated cattle, their sophisticated pottery techniques, and their complex social structures. Most importantly, they carried in their collective memory a deep and practical knowledge of the stars. This astronomical legacy, developed over countless generations in the open expanse of the savannah, would now be applied to a new environment with a different set of challenges and opportunities. The rhythm of life was no longer dictated by monsoon rains, but by the annual inundation of the great river. The astronomical skills honed at Nabta Playa proved to be perfectly adaptable. The need to predict the seasonal rains was replaced by the even more critical need to predict the Nile's flood. The ancient observers noticed that the flood arrived each year shortly after the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, reappeared at dawn. They applied their calendar-making skills to this new celestial event, creating the 365-day civil calendar that would become a hallmark of Egyptian civilization. The practice of aligning structures to the solstices and key stars, first seen in the desert stone circles, would evolve into the precise orientation of temples and pyramids. Thus, the prehistoric astronomy of the Sahara Desert did not vanish. It was transformed. It became the bedrock upon which the pharaonic state was built. The cattle cults of the desert may have evolved into the worship of celestial deities like Hathor and Nut. The chiefs who could interpret the heavens likely became the first priests and rulers. The legacy of Nabta-Playa is therefore profound. It demonstrates that the origins of Egyptian civilization and its extraordinary astronomical achievements lie not just on the banks of the Nile, but in the deeper past of the African continent, among a forgotten people who first learned to read the secrets written in the stars. As cultures unified along the Nile, astronomical knowledge shaped their state. They needed a calendar to govern their agricultural society. Building on traditions, they created a calendar. The early Egyptians turned their gaze to the sun and the stars, seeking a more constant and predictable measure of time for their burgeoning civilization. They observed the solar year was approximately 365 days long. The year was divided into 12 months of 30 days, plus 5 extra days for deities' birthdays. This calendar was consistent, aiding officials in calculations. This system united Egypt under a predictable rhythm. The year reflected the Nile's agricultural cycle. The Egyptians knew their 365-day calendar was not perfect and would slowly drift out of sync with the seasons. They used the star Sirius, which they called Sopdet, to reliably signal the start of the Nile's annual flooding. The helical rising of Sirius almost perfectly coincided with the first signs of the Nile's waters beginning to swell. The star's reappearance was the true New Year's Day, announcing the season of inundation. Her rising was a moment of immense religious significance, celebrated with festivals and rituals. The careful tracking of Sopdet's rising allowed the Egyptians to understand the slow drift of their calendar. The northern celestial pole held profound significance for the ancient Egyptians. They looked north to stars that never set, circling endlessly. These circumpolar stars symbolized eternity. The Egyptians called them the Ikimusek, the unwearying ones, the celestial destiny of the pharaohs. The Great Pyramid was aligned to the North Star Thuban. A shaft pointed to Thuban, a pathway for the pharaoh's soul to join the imperishable stars. This mapping was critical to their understanding of the cosmos. The North was the realm of eternity. This celestial map gave the Egyptians a sense of place within a divine universe. Dynastic astronomy was about formulating a comprehensive worldview, explaining the universe and humanity's place within it. For the ancient Egyptians, the organizing principle of everything was Ma'at, embodying truth, justice, balance, and cosmic order. Ma'at was the divine force that kept the universe functioning correctly. It ensured the sun would rise, the Nile would flood, and the stars would remain in their courses. The pharaoh was the earthly guarantor of Ma'at. His primary duty was to maintain this divine order. The daily journey of the sun god Ra across the sky, the monthly phases of the moon, and the annual return of Sopdet were all powerful demonstrations that the cosmic order was being upheld. Therefore, the study of astronomy was a sacred duty. This worldview is beautifully illustrated in their artistic representations of the cosmos. The sky was often depicted as the goddess Nut, her body arched over the earth, covered in stars. The earth itself was personified by the god Geb. It was a universe that was alive, a celestial family of gods whose actions created the world the Egyptians experienced every day. In the New Kingdom, temple complexes became models of the cosmos. These temples were astronomical instruments designed to capture sunlight at key moments, creating dramatic light and shadow. The Karnak temple complex exemplifies this, with its core design aligned astronomically. Its main axis aligns with the winter solstice sunrise. On this day, sunlight penetrates the gateway. It travels through halls to illuminate the inner sanctum. This event was powerful religious theatre, demonstrating the presence of the gods. The temples were dynamic machines, revealing a deep understanding of celestial mechanics. The Egyptian practice of celestial alignment was not confined to individual buildings. They thought on a much grander scale. They envisioned the entire landscape of Egypt as a sacred canvas upon which a reflection of the heavens could be drawn. The pyramids and temples were not isolated structures, but were often part of a much larger, interconnected plan. The placement of monuments relative to one another and relative to natural features like the Nile River was often deliberate and carried deep cosmological meaning. They were attempting to create a terrestrial reflection of the celestial world, weaving heaven and earth together into a single, unified whole. One of the most compelling theories in this field is the Orion correlation theory. This hypothesis suggests that the layout of the three main pyramids on the Giza plateau was intentionally designed to mirror the three stars in the belt of the constellation Orion. Not only does the arrangement of the pyramids match the arrangement of the stars, but the relative brightness of the stars seems to be reflected in the relative sizes of the pyramids. Furthermore, the Nile River, flowing alongside the Giza Plateau, corresponds to the position of the Milky Way, the celestial river, in the sky relative to the constellation of Orion. This creates a breathtakingly ambitious star map on the ground. This concept of as above, so below was central to the Egyptian worldview. By recreating the pattern of the stars on the land, they were anchoring the divine order of the heavens firmly in their own kingdom. The land of Egypt would thus become a living embodiment of Ma'at, a place of perfect cosmic harmony. This sacred geography reinforced the divine nature of the kingdom and the legitimacy of the pharaoh who ruled over it. Walking through this landscape was like walking through the cosmos itself, with every temple and pyramid serving as a gateway to a specific celestial region or divine power. Whether every alignment was intentional is still debated by scholars, but the evidence for large-scale celestial planning is undeniable. From the solstitial alignments of Karnak to the stellar shafts of Khufu's pyramid, it is clear that the ancient Egyptians possessed a sophisticated, three-dimensional understanding of astronomy. They applied this knowledge not just to tell time or predict floods, but to shape their entire world. They built a civilization that was not just located on the earth, but was a conscious and deliberate reflection of the heavens, a kingdom aligned with the eternal and majestic rhythms of the universe. Within the temples, priests dedicated their lives to the sky. The Imai Unut, or Hour Watchers, were keepers of celestial knowledge. From rooftops they scanned the stars, using star clocks to track the movement of decans. They watched for celestial events, meticulously recording observations to fix dates of festivals. The Hour Watchers ensured celebrations happened at auspicious moments. They interpreted the divine language of the stars, ensuring Egypt navigated time in harmony with the cosmos. The Egyptian fascination with the cosmos extended powerfully into the realm of the dead. The tomb was not simply a final resting place. It was a microcosm of the universe designed to ensure a successful journey in the afterlife. The walls and ceilings of tombs were often decorated with elaborate astronomical scenes. These were functional cosmic maps, celestial guidebooks for the soul. Walking into a tomb is like stepping into another universe. The ceilings are often painted a deep, dark blue, representing the night sky. Upon this celestial canvas are painted the constellations, depicted as gods and goddesses. These images provided a map, allowing the soul to navigate the darkness. They were a practical guide for the afterlife, but they also had a powerful magical function. By depicting the eternal nature of the cosmos, the Egyptians believed they could bestow that same immortality upon the deceased. The daily journey of the sun god Ra was a model for the pharaoh's own resurrection. These tomb paintings provide us with a direct window into the Egyptian understanding of the cosmos. The tomb became a sealed copy of the universe where the cycles of time would play out for eternity. The Temple of Hathor in Dendera features the renowned Dendera Zodiac, a magnificent map of the heavens created around 50 BCE. It represents a fusion of Egyptian astronomy with Greek and Babylonian ideas. The zodiac is a circular bas-relief featuring familiar constellations. It blends traditions, incorporating new knowledge while retaining its unique character. The disk depicts planets as gods sailing in celestial boats. It's a complex clock, calendar, and cosmological diagram. The Dendera zodiac encapsulates the journey of Egyptian stargazing. It reminds us that the sky was a vibrant realm, guiding them in life and death. Egyptian astronomy entered a brilliant final chapter. In 332 BCE, Alexander the Great brought Egypt into the Greek world, founding Alexandria. It became the Hellenistic world's intellectual heart, a multicultural metropolis. Alexandria became a crucible where Egyptian wisdom was reforged with Greek cosmology. Egyptians brought vast observational data and star charts. The Greeks sought mathematical models of the cosmos. Babylonian astronomy added mathematical prowess. Scholars combined Egyptian, Greek, and Babylonian traditions. The Museum and Great Library was a research institute. Scholars like Eratosthenes and Hipparchus worked here. Alexandria amplified Egypt's legacy, preparing it for the future. In the 2nd century CE, long after Alexandria had passed from Greek to Roman rule, the city produced its most celebrated astronomer. His name was Claudius Ptolemy. Though he was a Roman citizen who wrote in Greek, he lived and worked in Alexandria, the inheritor of centuries of accumulated Egyptian, Greek, and Babylonian knowledge. Ptolemy was a polymath, writing on geography, astrology, and music, but his greatest contribution was his monumental work on astronomy. This book, originally called the Mathematical Treatise, would become known to posterity by its Arabic name, the Al-Majest, meaning the greatest. It was a title it thoroughly deserved. The Al-Majest was a comprehensive masterpiece. In its 13 books, Ptolemy gathered and synthesized all the astronomical knowledge of his time into a single coherent system. He presented a detailed mathematical model of the universe that could predict the positions of the sun, moon, and planets with remarkable accuracy for its time. His model was geocentric, placing a stationary Earth at the center of the cosmos. To explain the complex and sometimes backward or retrograde motions of the planets, he used an ingenious system of circles on circles, known as deferents and epicycles. It was a complex but workable model that accounted for what observers saw in the sky. Ptolemy's work was not just about theory, it was grounded in observation. He drew heavily on the star catalogue of his predecessor Hipparchus, refining it and adding to it. He included a list of over 1,000 stars organized into 48 constellations, many of which we still recognize today. The Almagest provided tables that allowed users to compute the positions of celestial bodies for any given date. It was a complete astronomical toolkit, a user's manual for the entire universe as it was then understood. Its combination of theoretical elegance and practical utility made it an indispensable text for any serious astronomer. The influence of the Almagest was immense and long-lasting. For more than 1,400 years, it was the foundational text for astronomy in the Byzantine, Islamic, and Western European worlds. It was copied, translated, and studied by generations of scholars. It so successfully explained the heavens that it became the undisputed authority, its geocentric model going largely unchallenged until the work of Copernicus in the 16th century. Ptolemy, working in Roman Egypt, had created the final, crowning achievement of ancient astronomy. His work stands as a powerful testament to the intellectual legacy of Alexandria, a city built on Egyptian soil and nurtured by its ancient tradition of looking to the stars. Ancient Egyptian astronomy, from prehistoric stone circles to Ptolemy's models, spans 5,000 years. One lasting gift is the 365-day calendar. Adopted by Julius Caesar, it evolved into the Gregorian calendar. The concept of dividing the day into 24 hours comes from the Egyptian system of tracking day and night. The idea of mapping the sky is a tradition that Egypt perfected. Meticulous records provided data for later Greek and Roman astronomers. The astronomical alignments of the pyramids continue to inspire awe. They remind us of a civilization seeking harmony between earthly existence and the cosmic order. The greatest legacy is the spirit of inquiry, finding meaning in the night sky. From the stones of Nabta to the libraries of Alexandria, ancient Egyptian astronomy reveals humanity's quest for its place in the universe. Etched into Egypt's landscape, from star-aligned pyramids to sun-drenched temples, it wove together agriculture, religion and the state, guided by the stars. Their contributions echo today. Our calendar descends from their 365-day system. The 24-hour day has roots in temple hour watches. The cosmos, as an ordered place, was embodied in Ma'at, the divine order. This culminated in Ptolemy's Almagest, defining the Western universe for a millennium. Knowledge of the pharaohs became the foundation for the future. The light of Sopdet became a beacon of knowledge. When we look up, we see through ancient Egyptian eyes. Their cosmic perspective endures, connecting us to those first stargazers on the Nile. The Nile, a river that flows north, bringing life to a desert. For thousands of years it shaped Egypt, its floods both awe-inspiring and essential. From fertile delta to arid desert, the Nile is a lifeline. The Nile's bounty allowed for the development of one of the world's first civilizations. Ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs, pyramids and powerful gods, emerged from the fertile banks of this mighty river. The Nile's waters provided sustenance, its floods brought fertility, and its navigable waters facilitated trade and communication. This allowed for the growth of cities, the development of complex social structures, and the flourishing of art, science, and religion. The ancient Egyptians lived in harmony with the river's rhythm, adapting their lives to its ebb and flow. Their calendar, their agriculture, and even their beliefs were intertwined with the Nile's cycles. It was more than just a river. It was the very foundation of their existence. To the ancient Egyptians, the Nile was not merely a river, it was a divine entity, a god whose benevolence sustained their very existence. They called him Hapi, the god of the annual flood, depicted as a benevolent figure with a large belly and pendulous breasts, symbolizing fertility and abundance. Temples were erected in his honor, and elaborate rituals were performed to appease him and ensure the timely arrival of the annual flood. Offerings of food, flowers, and precious metals were made, and hymns were sung praising his life-giving waters. The pharaoh, considered the divine ruler and intermediary between the gods and the people, played a crucial role in these rituals. His connection to the divine was believed to influence the Nile's favor, ensuring the prosperity of the land and its people. The Nile's annual flood cycle dictated life in ancient Egypt. It marked the start of the agricultural year. Egyptians created a calendar based on its 3 seasons. Akhet, the inundation season, was a time of celebration. The Nile's silt renewed the land's vitality. Pere, the growing season, followed. Shemu, the harvest season, marked abundance and gratitude. The cultural significance of the Nile is deeply etched into the very fabric of ancient Egyptian civilization. It is evident in their art, their architecture, and their beliefs. Tomb paintings depict scenes of life along the riverbanks, showcasing the abundance it brought. Monumental architecture, such as the pyramids and temples, were often aligned with the Nile's flow, further emphasizing its centrality in their worldview. The orientation of these structures suggests a deep reverence for the river's journey from south to north, mirroring the sun's path across the sky. The Nile's influence extended even to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the soul, after death, journeyed westward across the Nile, mirroring the sun's journey into the underworld. This belief is reflected in the layout of tombs and the placement of funerary goods. The ancient Egyptians wove intricate myths to explain the Nile's floods. One such myth tells of Isis and her beloved Osiris. Osiris, murdered by his brother Set, was dismembered. Isis searched tirelessly for his remains. Her tears overflowed the Nile, causing the annual flood. Each year her tears replenished the land, bringing life to Egypt. Another legend tells of Sekhmet, the fierce lion goddess of war and healing, and her role in the Nile's floods. According to the myth, Sekhmet, enraged by the disrespect shown to her father, the sun god Ra, unleashed her fiery wrath upon humanity. Her fury was so intense that she scorched the earth, turning the Nile blood-red. Fearing for the annihilation of humankind, Ra intervened, tricking Sekhmet into drinking a vast quantity of beer mixed with red ochre, resembling blood. Intoxicated, Sekhmet's rage subsided and she transformed into Hathor, the benevolent goddess of love and music. The red-tinged beer, symbolizing the floodwaters, flowed from her, replenishing the Nile and saving humanity from her wrath. The Nile's significance transcended the earthly realm, playing a crucial role in the Egyptian afterlife beliefs. They believed that the Nile flowed through the underworld, the Duat, providing sustenance to the souls residing there. The deceased, embarking on their perilous journey through the underworld, relied on the Nile's waters for sustenance and guidance. Funerary texts, such as the Book of the Dead, contain spells and hymns meant to ensure safe passage across the celestial Nile. The Nile, in this context, represented not only physical sustenance but also spiritual renewal and rebirth. Just as it brought life to the land of Egypt, it also nourished the souls in the afterlife, ensuring their continued existence in the realm beyond death. The lifeblood of ancient Egypt, the Nile's annual flood, was a spectacle as predictable as the rising sun. Every year, like clockwork, the river would swell, engulfing its banks and transforming the arid landscape into a fertile expanse of water. This inundation, far from being feared, was eagerly anticipated. The ancient Egyptians, with their keen sense of observation, had developed a deep understanding of the river's rhythm. They knew that the flood, though appearing destructive, was the source of their prosperity. The floodwaters, originating from the heavy rains in the Ethiopian highlands, would arrive in Egypt around June, reaching their peak in September. As the waters receded, they left behind a rich deposit of silt, a fertile layer of sediment that acted as a natural fertilizer. The ancient Egyptians recognized the source of their bounty, referring to the southern lands as Tarseti, meaning the land of the bow. They understood that the floods were a gift from these distant lands. Expeditions were sent south to explore the river's origins, seeking to understand the forces that governed its flow. These journeys, though fraught with peril, provided valuable knowledge about the Nile's tributaries and the annual rainfall patterns that dictated the flood's intensity. The Egyptians developed sophisticated systems to measure the Nile's rise and fall, constructing nilometers, graduated stone structures placed within the river or nearby wells. These structures allowed them to predict the height of the flood and anticipate the year's harvest. The Nile's annual flood cycle, predictable and life-giving, shaped the rhythm of life in ancient Egypt. It dictated the agricultural calendar, the construction projects, and even the religious festivals. During the inundation, when the fields were submerged, farmers would engage in other activities, like repairing their tools, tending to their livestock, or working on construction projects for the pharaoh. The flood season provided a period of relative respite from the demanding work of agriculture. As the floodwaters receded, the land, rejuvenated by the rich silt deposits, was ready for planting. Farmers would sow their crops, anticipating a bountiful harvest in the months to come. The success of their harvest depended on the Nile's generosity, a testament to their symbiotic relationship with the river. The lifeblood of ancient Egypt's agriculture was not just the Nile's water, but the rich, fertile silt it deposited with each annual flood. This black, nutrient-rich sediment, carried from the highlands of Ethiopia, held the key to the civilization's agricultural success. Unlike the alluvial soils of other river valleys, which often required years of cultivation to become fertile, the Nile's silt was immediately productive. As the floodwaters receded, they left behind a layer of this fertile sediment, ready to nourish a variety of crops. The Egyptians recognized the silt's importance, referring to it as Kemet, which means black land, a testament to its fertility and their connection to it. This black soil stood in stark contrast to the Deshret, the red land of the surrounding desert, highlighting its life-giving properties. To maximize the benefits of the Nile's annual inundation, the ancient Egyptians developed an ingenious system of basin irrigation. This method involved dividing the land into a series of rectangular basins, surrounded by earthen dikes, to capture and hold the floodwaters. As the Nile rose, water would be channeled into these basins through a network of canals, carefully controlled to ensure even distribution. The floodwaters, laden with silt, would be allowed to sit in these basins for several weeks, saturating the soil and depositing their fertile load. Once the floodwaters receded, the basins, now filled with moist, fertile soil, were ready for planting. Farmers would sow a variety of crops, including barley, wheat, flax, and vegetables, taking advantage of the naturally irrigated and fertilized land. Egyptians developed perennial irrigation for year-round cultivation. This allowed them to grow crops even during the dry season. The shaduf, a lever system, was commonly used to lift water. Canals and ditches channeled water from the Nile to fields. These ingenious irrigation techniques, coupled with the fertile Nile silt, allowed the ancient Egyptians to cultivate a diverse range of crops, sustaining a large population and contributing to the civilization's prosperity. The staple crops of ancient Egypt were barley and wheat, used to make bread, beer and porridge. Flax, another important crop, was used to produce linen, a valuable textile for clothing and other purposes. Vegetables such as onions, garlic, lentils and lettuce added variety to their diet. The Egyptians also cultivated a variety of fruits, including grapes, figs, dates and pomegranates, which provided essential vitamins and sweetness. These fruits, often depicted in tomb paintings and offerings to the gods, were highly valued and considered symbols of abundance and prosperity. The Nile, once a force of nature, entered a new era in the 20th century, the age of dams. The Aswan High Dam, completed in 1970, altered the river's natural flood cycle. It brought significant changes, including irrigation, hydroelectric power and flood control. However, the dam's construction came at a cost. The silt now trapped no longer replenished farmlands downstream. The end of the natural flood cycle brought about a new set of challenges. The once fertile soils, deprived of the annual silt deposits, became increasingly saline and less productive over time. The absence of the flood's natural flushing action led to the build-up of salts in the soil, impacting crop yields. The construction of the Aswan High Dam, while providing undeniable benefits, also had ecological consequences. The Nile Delta, once a vibrant ecosystem nourished by the annual influx of nutrients, began to erode, deprived of the silt that once replenished its shores. The dam also impacted the populations of certain fish species, like the sardine, which relied on the annual flood cycle for their breeding grounds. The altered flow of the Nile disrupted their migration patterns, leading to a decline in their numbers. The Nile, the river that gave birth to Egyptian civilization, continues to flow, a silent witness to time's passage. Its legacy is etched into the soul of Egypt. The ancient Egyptians' reverence and ingenious methods inspire awe. The Nile's story reminds us of nature's power and our responsibility. Gold, a symbol of power, purity, and eternal life. Since time immemorial, it has captivated civilizations across the globe. From the sun-drenched sands of ancient Egypt to the bustling cities of today, gold has held an irresistible fascination. Its brilliance and rarity have made it the ultimate symbol of wealth and prestige. For the ancient Egyptians, gold was deeply intertwined with their beliefs, rituals, and their very perception of the cosmos. In the land of pharaohs, where the scorching sun beat down upon the fertile banks of the Nile, gold flowed like the lifeblood of a mighty civilization. From the towering pyramids to the humblest amulets, gold was omnipresent, a testament to Egypt's enduring legacy. Join us now as we embark on a captivating journey through time. Our journey begins in the mines, where the quest for this precious metal shaped the destiny of a nation. The ancient Egyptians believed that gold was no mere earthly element. It was a celestial gift born from the very tears of Ra, the sun god. As Ra wept tears of joy, they fell to the earth, transforming into shimmering nuggets of gold. This divine origin imbued gold with a sacred aura, elevating it above all other metals. It became synonymous with the sun's radiance, its life-giving warmth, and its association with royalty and power. To obtain this divine metal, the ancient Egyptians embarked on arduous expeditions to remote corners of their empire. From the Nubian desert in the south to the Sinai Peninsula in the east, they established vast mining operations, driven by an insatiable thirst for the precious metal. Miners, often prisoners of war or labourers conscripted into service, toiled in stifling heat and cramped conditions. Using rudimentary tools of copper and stone, they chipped away at the hard rock, following veins of gold deep into the earth. The extracted ore, a mixture of rock and precious metal, was then transported, often on the backs of donkeys or by boat along the Nile, to smelting centres. There, skilled craftsmen employed ingenious techniques to separate the gold from its impurities. Using furnaces fueled by charcoal, they heated the ore to extreme temperatures, melting the gold and allowing it to be collected. This arduous process yielded the precious metal that would adorn temples, tombs, and the bodies of pharaohs. Gold, in the eyes of the ancient Egyptians, transcended its material value. It was not merely a symbol of wealth or status, but a divine substance intrinsically linked to the very essence of their gods. They called it the flesh of the gods, a tangible manifestation of the celestial realm on earth. This belief permeated every aspect of their religious life, from the grand temples to the smallest amulets. The Egyptians saw a powerful connection between gold and the sun, the life-giving force of their world. Gold, with its radiant glow, seemed to embody the very essence of the sun's energy. Ra, the sun god, was often depicted with golden skin, his body emanating a warm, ethereal light. The pharaohs, considered to be divine intermediaries between the gods and the people, were also closely associated with gold. Their tombs were filled with golden treasures, their bodies adorned with golden masks and jewelry. Gold played a pivotal role in the Egyptians' elaborate burial rituals. Amulets crafted from gold, often depicting protective deities or sacred symbols, were placed within the tombs, their presence intended to ward off evil spirits and ensure a safe passage to the underworld. The Egyptians believed that the deceased needed to be adorned with gold in order to be recognized by the gods in the afterlife. This belief fueled the creation of exquisite funerary goods, from intricately crafted jewelry to elaborate sarcophagi, all lavishly adorned with gold. While gold held profound religious significance in ancient Egypt, its use extended far beyond temples and tombs. For the elite, gold was a ubiquitous symbol of their status, adorning everything from furniture and chariots to clothing and jewelry. Wealthy Egyptians adorned themselves with elaborate gold necklaces, rings and earrings, showcasing their prosperity and refined taste. Craftsmen transformed gold into exquisite objects, both grand and intimate. They mastered techniques like granulation, filigree and cloisonne, creating intricate designs that showcased their mastery over this precious metal. Even among the common people, gold held a special allure. Amulets made of gold, often depicting protective deities, were highly sought after for their perceived power to ward off evil and bring good fortune. The most lavish and awe-inspiring use of gold, however, was reserved for the gods themselves and the pharaohs who served as their earthly representatives. Temples dedicated to honoring the gods were adorned with staggering quantities of gold, transforming them into dazzling displays of wealth and devotion. Walls shimmered with gold leaf, statues of deities gleamed under the sun's rays, and even the most mundane objects like offering bowls and incense burners were often crafted from this precious metal. The Egyptians believed that by adorning their temples with gold, they were creating a fitting abode for the gods, a realm worthy of their divine presence. Pharaohs, considered to be living gods, were also inextricably linked to gold. Their tombs, elaborate structures designed to ensure their safe passage to the afterlife, were veritable treasure troves filled with unimaginable quantities of gold. The abundance of gold buried with pharaohs served multiple purposes. It was a potent symbol of their power and status, showcasing their wealth and divine right to rule even in death. Gold was believed to possess transformative properties, capable of elevating the pharaoh's spirit and facilitating their journey to the afterlife. Beyond its religious and symbolic importance, gold also played a vital role in the ancient Egyptian economy. It served as a form of currency, used to facilitate trade and pay taxes. The Egyptians controlled vast gold mines, primarily located in Nubia and the Eastern Desert. The allure of gold extended far beyond the borders of ancient Egypt. Its reputation as a precious and enduring metal spread throughout the ancient world, attracting merchants and traders from distant lands. Egypt, with its vast gold reserves and its strategic location at the crossroads of major trade routes, became a hub of international commerce. From the bustling ports of the Nile Delta to the desert oases that dotted the caravan routes, gold flowed in and out of Egypt, fueling a thriving economy. Merchants, their ships laden with goods from distant shores, arrived eager to exchange their wares for this highly sought-after metal. The Egyptians, in turn, sought luxury goods not available within their own borders, such as cedarwood from Lebanon, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, and ebony and ivory from sub-Saharan Africa. The ancient Egyptians forged significant trade relationships with the land of Punt, located along the Red Sea or Horn of Africa. Punt was renowned for its exotic goods, including incense, ebony, ivory, and gold. Egyptians launched expeditions to Punt, braving treacherous seas. These expeditions were recorded on temple walls, showcasing their seafaring capabilities. Reliefs from Hatshepsut's temple depict ships laden with treasures from Punt. Trade with Punt was reciprocal. Egyptians offered gold, linen, papyrus, and manufactured goods in exchange. Gold, beyond its role as a commodity, also served as a powerful tool of diplomacy in ancient Egypt. Pharaohs, keen to maintain peaceful relations with their neighbours or to secure their borders from potential threats, often employed gold as a diplomatic gift. These gifts, presented with great ceremony and accompanied by lavish pronouncements of friendship and goodwill, served to strengthen alliances and deter aggression. The Egyptians also used gold to secure their access to vital resources, such as timber from the cedar forests of Lebanon or turquoise from the Sinai Peninsula. By offering generous payments in gold, the Egyptians ensured a steady supply of these essential materials, which were crucial for their construction projects, shipbuilding, and the creation of luxury goods. The flow of gold into and out of Egypt, driven by trade, diplomacy, and conquest, had a profound impact on the ancient world. While gold reigned supreme in ancient Egypt, other materials were equally prized for their beauty and rarity. Lapis lazuli, a deep blue stone, was especially valued for its intense colour and celestial associations. Mined in Afghanistan, it symbolized the heavens and the divine. The funerary mask of Tutankhamun showcases lapis lazuli alongside gold, symbolizing wealth and power. Turquoise, a vibrant blue-green mineral, was mined in the Sinai Peninsula and other arid regions. Its colour, reminiscent of water and vegetation, symbolized fertility, renewal and protection. Turquoise was used in amulets and jewellery for its perceived magical properties. Obsidian, a volcanic glass, symbolized both chaos and protection. Its sharp edges made it ideal for tools and weapons. Skilled artisans transformed these materials into exquisite objects. These stones enriched the artistic vocabulary of ancient Egypt. Journeying through ancient Egypt, we explore the golden legacy of a civilization that revered its beauty and power. Gold held a sacred place, embodying the sun's radiance and the god's immortality. From mines to workshops, Artisans crafted objects of beauty and meaning. Gold adorned temples, tombs and bodies, symbolizing wealth and eternity. It played a vital role in the economy, facilitating trade and diplomacy. The allure of gold connected Egypt to distant civilizations, shaping history. The legacy of ancient Egypt's fascination with gold continues to resonate today. The dazzling artifacts recovered from their tombs, preserved for millennia by the dry desert climate, still captivate our imaginations, offering a glimpse into a civilization that valued beauty, craftsmanship, and the enduring power of this precious metal. As we marvel at the golden treasures of ancient Egypt, we are reminded of the enduring human fascination with this precious metal. Across cultures and throughout history, gold has symbolized wealth, power, beauty, and the divine. It has adorned our bodies, our places of worship, and our most prized possessions. The ancient Egyptians, with their profound reverence for gold, offer us a unique perspective on the enduring allure of this precious metal. They remind us that beyond its material value, gold holds a deeper significance, reflecting our aspirations for beauty, eternity, and a connection to something greater than ourselves. Welcome to ancient Egypt, a land of breathtaking pyramids, mystical deities, and unparalleled innovation. But beyond the monuments and mythology lies a fascinating story of how the ancient Egyptians maintained their health and nourished their bodies. Wellness was not just a personal endeavor, but a cultural cornerstone, deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs and daily practices. Join us as we explore the remarkable world of Egyptian medicine and diets, uncovering the secrets of their holistic approach to well-being. The ancient Egyptians were pioneers of medicine, combining natural remedies with spiritual practices. Their medical knowledge evolved over millennia, influenced by their observations of nature and the human body. They documented their knowledge in papyri, such as the Ebers papyrus, which contains over 700 remedies and treatments, showcasing their extensive understanding of medicinal plants and their applications. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, one of the earliest known surgical manuals, highlights their advanced surgical techniques and anatomical knowledge. These texts reveal an intricate understanding of the human body and diseases developed through centuries of practice and study. Temples dedicated to Imhotep were not only places of worship, but also centers for healing, reflecting the integration of medicine and religion in their culture. These sanctuaries offered treatments that combined prayers, rituals, and practical remedies, evolving into sophisticated centers of medical practice. This holistic approach to health, balancing the physical and spiritual realms, was a cornerstone of ancient Egyptian medicine, influencing practices for generations. The ancient Egyptians relied on the natural world for healing. Honey was prized for its antiseptic properties and used to treat wounds, while garlic was a common remedy for heart health and stamina. Willow bark, a natural source of salicylic acid, was used to alleviate pain, foreshadowing the development of aspirin thousands of years later. They also excelled in treating physical injuries. Splints made from reeds and bandages soaked in medicinal oils were used to set fractures. For infections, they employed antiseptic poultices made of resin, honey, and even copper salts, which have antibacterial properties. Dental health was a significant concern. The Egyptians used tooth powders made from crushed eggshells and ash to clean their teeth, though they faced challenges due to the abrasive nature of their bread, which wore down enamel over time. Aloe vera was another versatile remedy, used to soothe skin irritations and burns. Poppy seeds were utilized for their sedative properties, helping to relieve pain and induce sleep. Juniper berries and their oil were used to treat digestive issues and as a diuretic. Castor oil was a common laxative, aiding in digestive health and relieving constipation. A balanced diet was central to Egyptian life. Bread and beer were staples, providing carbohydrates and essential nutrients. Bread was made from emmer wheat or barley, and beer was brewed from the same grains, sometimes flavored with dates or herbs for added nutrition. Their meals included vegetables such as onions, leeks and garlic, which were rich in vitamins and believed to have medicinal benefits. Fruits like figs, dates and melons were common, adding natural sweetness and essential hydration to their diet. Fish from the Nile was an important protein source, supplemented by poultry and eggs. While red meat was reserved for the wealthy or special occasions, ordinary Egyptians had access to lentils, chickpeas and other legumes for protein. Their reliance on whole grains made their diet high in fiber, which supported digestive health. However, the sand and grit from grinding flour often led to severe dental wear, causing pain and infections. Nuts and seeds such as almonds, sesame seeds and flax seeds were also part of their diet, providing healthy fats and additional protein. Dairy products like cheese and milk were consumed, offering calcium and other essential nutrients for bone health. Herbs and spices, including coriander, cumin and fenugreek, were used to flavor their food and were believed to have health benefits. Honey was a natural sweetener and was also used for its medicinal properties, adding both flavor and health benefits to their diet. The Nile River was the heart of Egyptian life. Its annual floods brought fertile silt, making agriculture possible. Crops like wheat, barley, flax and vegetables thrived along its banks, ensuring a steady food supply. The river also provided medicinal resources. Papyrus was not only used for writing, but also as material for wound dressings. Plants like lotus flowers and water reeds were incorporated into remedies for ailments, ranging from skin conditions to digestive disorders. The cycle of planting and harvesting was closely tied to the Nile's rhythm. This abundance allowed the Egyptians to experiment with a wide range of ingredients for both sustenance and healing. The Nile was also a vital source of fish, which was a key protein in the Egyptian diet. Advanced irrigation techniques allowed Egyptians to maximize their agricultural output. Medical knowledge was often recorded on papyrus, ensuring the transmission of healing practices across generations. The legacy of ancient Egyptian wellness lives on. Many of their remedies, like honey for wounds and herbal teas for digestion, are still valued today. Modern herbal medicine and essential oils also draw from ancient practices. Their understanding of nutrition and the connection between diet and health was far ahead of its time. Today's Mediterranean diet and healthy eating trends echo their principles. Their approach to wellness reflected their reverence for balance, or ma'at, the harmony that governed all aspects of life. This balance is mirrored in modern wellness practices like yoga and meditation. From the food they ate to the medicines they crafted, the ancient Egyptians demonstrated a profound connection to the world around them. This connection continues in today's natural remedies and farm-to-table movements. Beyond their renowned remedies and diet, the ancient Egyptians also practiced surgery with remarkable skill. They employed a variety of tools such as scalpels, forceps and probes, many of which have been discovered in tombs, showcasing their advanced understanding of medical procedures. Surgical techniques included trepanation, where holes were drilled into the skull to treat head injuries or illnesses, and the use of sutures made from plant fibers or animal sinews to close wounds. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, a medical text dating back to around 1600 BCE, provides detailed descriptions of these procedures, highlighting the Egyptians' systematic approach to surgery. They also practiced dentistry, extracting teeth and treating dental abscesses with precision. The combination of surgical skill and their vast knowledge of medicinal plants allowed them to perform complex procedures while minimizing pain and infection risks. The ancient Egyptians' contributions to surgery laid the groundwork for future medical advancements, demonstrating their ingenuity and dedication to the well-being of their people. In summary, the ancient Egyptians excelled in various aspects of wellness, from their innovative surgical practices and advanced medical tools to their comprehensive understanding of medicinal plants and balanced diets. Their holistic approach to health and medicine not only ensured the well-being of their people, but also laid a strong foundation for future generations to build upon. In ancient Egypt, medicine was deeply intertwined with magic and religion. Illnesses were believed to be caused by supernatural forces, requiring both medical knowledge and spiritual intervention. Priests, skilled healers, performed rituals to appease gods and expel spirits. Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess, was revered in medicine. Her priests channeled her power through elaborate ceremonies. Thoth, god of wisdom, bestowed medical knowledge. Amulets and charms protected and aided recovery. Inscribed with sacred texts, they invoked divine protection. The Ebers papyrus blends spells and medical treatments. The heart was seen as the center of thought and health. During mummification, the heart was carefully preserved. Magic and religion ensured holistic well-being. This integration highlights the complexity of ancient Egyptian society and their understanding of the human condition. The diet in ancient Egypt varied significantly between social classes, reflecting wealth and status. The wealthy enjoyed diverse meals with meats, fish, fruits and vegetables. Bread and beer were staples, but quality varied by class. Commoners had simpler diets, mainly bread, beer and vegetables. Meat was a rare luxury for the working class. The Nile's bounty ensured basic foodstuffs for all. Feasts showcased wealth and reinforced social bonds. Food was a marker of status and cultural expression. Ancient Egyptian medicine was advanced and profoundly influential on later civilizations. Their knowledge of herbal remedies, surgical techniques and holistic health laid the groundwork for future practices. The Greeks adopted many Egyptian practices, integrating them into their own medical theories. Hippocrates drew inspiration from Egyptian medical texts. The Romans expanded upon Egyptian medical knowledge. Galen referenced Egyptian practices in his works. Egyptian medical papyri influenced both the ancient world and Renaissance scholars. Their emphasis on mind, body and spirit echoes in modern holistic medicine. The legacy of ancient Egyptian medicine continues to inspire contemporary practices. Understanding their influence provides a broader perspective on medical evolution. It highlights the importance of preserving and learning from ancient wisdom. Thank you for joining us on this journey into their remarkable world. Stay tuned for more explorations of the past. Explore more about ancient Egypt in our next episode. Like, share and subscribe to delve deeper into the mysteries of history. The ancient Egyptians created a civilization that thrived for millennia. This civilization was built on the fertile banks of the Nile River. The Nile's annual floods brought life-giving silt to the land. This allowed the Egyptians to cultivate crops and produce surplus agricultural goods. From the bustling marketplaces of their cities to the far reaches of the known world, the Egyptians were active traders. They exchanged goods, ideas and culture with their neighbors. Their pharaohs, considered divine rulers, invested in expeditions to distant lands. These expeditions sought valuable resources like gold, timber, and exotic animals. Join us as we delve into the world of ancient Egyptian trade. It takes us from the sun-drenched banks of the Nile to the distant shores of Africa and the Near East. In the heart of every ancient Egyptian city lay the marketplace, a vibrant hub of activity from dawn till dusk. Here, locals and foreigners alike converged to barter for their daily needs and exotic luxuries. The air was filled with the aroma of spices, the sound of haggling, and the sight of colourful textiles. Farmers brought their bountiful harvests of grain, fruits, and vegetables. Fishermen displayed their catches of the day from the Nile. Artisans proudly presented their crafts, pottery, jewellery and furniture. The Egyptians developed a system to standardize trade. thee. There was a unit of value based on the weight of copper. It served as a common denominator for comparing the value of different goods and services. The marketplace was not just an economic centre but also a social hub. Festivals and religious celebrations often took place in the marketplace, adding to the lively atmosphere. The Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt, was also its main artery of trade. Boats laden with goods sailed up and down its length. They connected the northern delta region to the southern reaches of the kingdom. But the Egyptians were not content to limit themselves to the Nile Valley. They ventured beyond their borders, establishing trade routes across land and sea that stretched as far as the Arabian Peninsula, the Levant and even Mesopotamia. Overland trade routes, often arduous journeys by donkey caravan, crossed the eastern desert to reach the Red Sea. Here Egyptian ships embarked on voyages to the land of Punt. Punt, believed to be located in present-day Somalia, was a source of exotic goods highly prized by the Egyptians: incense, ebony, ivory, gold, and even live baboons. These international trade routes were not without their dangers, yet the lure of profit and the desire for exotic goods fueled the Egyptians' adventurous spirit, making them adept sailors and shrewd traders. The Old Kingdom period, around 2686 to 2181 BCE, marked the emergence of a powerful centralized state in Egypt. During this era, the pharaohs consolidated their power and embarked on ambitious building projects, most notably the pyramids of Giza. These monumental structures stand as a testament to the pharaoh's authority and the economic prosperity of the Old Kingdom. Trade played a crucial role in fueling this economic growth. The pharaohs controlled all aspects of trade. They sent expeditions to distant lands in search of valuable resources. Timber from the cedar forests of Lebanon was essential for constructing ships, temples, and tombs. Gold, mined in the Nubian desert to the south, became synonymous with the pharaoh's power and divinity. The Old Kingdom laid the foundation for Egypt's future economic dominance. It established the systems and networks that would allow subsequent dynasties to further expand trade and secure Egypt's place as a major power in the ancient world. The Middle Kingdom, around 2055 to 1650 BCE, witnessed a resurgence of Egyptian power after a period of political instability. The pharaohs of this era focused on expanding their influence southwards into Nubia. Nubia, a region rich in gold, became a primary target for Egyptian expeditions. Gold played a central role in the Egyptian economy and belief system. It was considered the flesh of the gods, and possessing it was a sign of divine favour. The Egyptians established trading posts and fortresses along the Nile to secure their access to Nubian gold mines. They also developed sophisticated mining techniques to extract the precious metal from the earth. Nubian gold fueled the Middle Kingdom's prosperity. However, the Egyptians' desire for Nubian gold also led to conflict. These campaigns were costly and bloody, but they ultimately secured Egypt's dominance over Nubia and its valuable resources. The New Kingdom, around 1550 to 1069 BCE, marked the zenith of Egyptian power and prosperity. During this era, the Egyptian Empire reached its greatest territorial extent, stretching from Nubia in the south to Syria in the north. This expansion brought immense wealth and luxury goods into Egypt, transforming its culture and economy. The pharaohs of the New Kingdom launched ambitious military campaigns. These campaigns brought vast territories under Egyptian control and opened up new trade routes. Egyptian armies returned from their conquests laden with booty, gold, silver, precious stones, exotic animals, and even slaves. Trade with distant lands flourished during the New Kingdom. Egyptian ships sailed the Mediterranean, reaching the shores of Greece, Anatolia, and the Levant. These exotic goods became status symbols among the Egyptian elite, further stimulating trade and cultural exchange. The New Kingdom was an era of unprecedented wealth and luxury in ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians were renowned for their ambitious engineering projects, and the Canal of the Pharaohs stands as a testament to their ingenuity and determination. This ambitious waterway, also known as the Canal of the Seas, was an attempt to connect the Nile River to the Red Sea, creating a direct trade route between Egypt and the east. The first attempt to construct the canal is credited to Pharaoh Senusret III of the 12th dynasty, around 1878 to 1839 BCE. However, it was Pharaoh Necho II of the 26th dynasty, around 610 to 595 BCE, who is often associated with the canal's completion. The canal was a remarkable feat of engineering for its time. It stretched for over 100 miles, linking the Nile River to the Bitter Lakes, which were then connected to the Red Sea. The canal facilitated trade and transportation between Egypt and the East. It allowed Egyptian ships to bypass the treacherous journey around the Sinai Peninsula, reducing travel time and risks. However, the canal was not without its challenges. Despite its intermittent use, the Canal of the Pharaohs stands as a testament to the ancient Egyptians' vision and engineering prowess. The once mighty Egyptian empire did not last forever. Political instability, internal strife, and the rise of new powers in the region gradually eroded Egyptian dominance. By the late period, around 747 to 332 BCE, Egypt was a shadow of its former self, its economy weakened, and its trade networks disrupted. The decline of Egyptian trade was due to a combination of factors. Internally, political instability and internal conflicts weakened the central government's control over trade routes and resources. The rise of independent kingdoms in Nubia further disrupted trade to the south. External pressures also played a role. The emergence of new powers, such as the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians, challenged Egyptian hegemony in the Near East. The decline of Egyptian trade had a profound impact on the empire's economy and society. The decline of Egyptian trade marked the end of an era. The story of ancient Egyptian trade is a testament to the ingenuity, resourcefulness, and ambition of this remarkable civilization. From the bustling marketplaces of their cities to the far reaches of the known world, the Egyptians were active traders. They exchanged goods, ideas, and culture with their neighbors. The legacy of ancient Egyptian trade is still felt today. The Egyptians developed complex systems of trade and diplomacy. They created innovative technologies for transportation and navigation. They established trade routes that connected distant lands and cultures. These innovations laid the groundwork for the development of international trade in the centuries that followed. Though the pharaohs and pyramids may be long gone, the spirit of trade that animated ancient Egypt continues to inspire us today. As we navigate the complexities of global trade in the 21st century, we can learn valuable lessons from the ancient Egyptians who mastered the art of trade and left an indelible mark on the world. Ancient Egypt, a civilization that has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and the general public for centuries. The land of pharaohs and pyramids, a place where the sands of time have preserved the grandeur of a bygone era, a place full of mystery and wonder. The ancient ruins whisper tales of gods and kings, of life and death. But behind the giant monuments and strange hieroglyphs, ancient Egypt had a vibrant musical tradition. Music was an integral part of their daily lives. Music was everywhere in this ancient civilization, from simple homes to grand temples. It was a universal language that transcended social classes. Imagine the sun rising over the Nile River, shining on the fields, the gentle hum of the river, the rustling of the reeds, and the distant sound of a flute. Farmers work in their fields, singing ancient songs. These songs were not just for entertainment. They were a way to pass down stories and traditions. In the busy marketplace, musicians play happy tunes, and their music mixes with the sounds of people buying and selling. The marketplace was a hub of activity, and music added to its vibrancy. Inside the temples, priests performed rituals, singing hymns and playing sacred instruments. These rituals were believed to connect them with the divine. Music wasn't just art in ancient Egypt, it was a big part of their lives. It was woven into the fabric of their society. It showed their happiness and sadness, their beliefs and hopes. Music was a reflection of their emotions and their worldview. It connected them to their gods and celebrated life and death. Music was a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Join us as we travel back in time to explore the music of ancient Egypt. We'll delve into the sounds that echoed through the temples and marketplaces. We'll discover their instruments and learn about their musical traditions. From the simple reed flutes to the elaborate harps, each instrument had its own story. This picture shows us the musical culture of ancient Egypt. The wall paintings are a testament to the importance of music in their society. We see musicians playing harps, their fingers deftly plucking the strings to create melodies that have been lost to time. Flutes, their breath giving life to the music, and drums, the heartbeat of their songs. They look skilled and passionate. Their expressions show a deep connection to their craft. This scene reminds us that music was important to them. It was present in their celebrations, their rituals and their daily lives. It brought them joy, comfort and a connection to their gods. Music was the soul of ancient Egypt, a timeless echo of a civilization that continues to captivate us. Music wasn't just for rich people or religious ceremonies in ancient Egypt. Everyone enjoyed music. It was a universal language that transcended social classes and was deeply embedded in the fabric of their daily lives. From the grand palaces of the pharaohs to the humble homes of the common folk, music resonated through the air, bringing joy and solace to all who heard it. It was part of everyday life and all kinds of activities. Whether people were working, relaxing or celebrating, music was always present. It was as essential to their lives as the Nile River, providing a rhythm to their daily routines and marking the passage of time with its melodies. From working in the fields to celebrating at festivals, music was always there. Farmers would sing as they sowed and harvested their crops, their songs echoing across the fertile lands. These melodies not only made the hard work more bearable, but also synchronized their efforts, making the labor more efficient and harmonious. Think about the hard work of building the pyramids, those huge monuments that we still marvel at today. The construction of these colossal structures required immense physical effort and coordination. Music played a crucial role in this process, helping to maintain the workers' morale and keep them in sync. The work was tough, but the workers sang together. Their voices, rising in unison, created a powerful sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. These songs were not just about passing the time, they were a vital part of the work itself, providing a steady rhythm for the labourers to follow. Their voices, rising and falling, gave them a sense of unity and purpose. The melodies and rhythms helped to coordinate their movements, ensuring that each stone was placed with precision and care. This musical collaboration was a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the ancient Egyptians. These work songs, passed down from parents to children, helped them work together and kept them going. They were a living tradition, a way of preserving the knowledge and skills of previous generations. Through these songs, the wisdom of the past was carried forward, ensuring that each new generation was equipped to face the challenges of their time. In the busy marketplaces where people sold things and met friends, music created a lively atmosphere. The sounds of merchants calling out their wares, the chatter of customers and the melodies of street musicians blended together to create a vibrant and dynamic soundscape. Musicians, both good and not so good, played their instruments, filling the air with music that attracted crowds. These performers were an integral part of the market experience, drawing people in with their tunes and adding to the overall energy and excitement of the place. Drums, flutes and harps all played together, making the marketplace a fun and exciting place. Each instrument added its own unique flavour to the mix, creating a rich tapestry of sound that reflected the diversity and creativity of ancient Egyptian culture. Festivals and celebrations always had music in ancient Egypt. These events were a time for the community to come together, to celebrate their achievements and to honour their gods. Music was at the heart of these gatherings, providing a soundtrack for the festivities and enhancing the sense of joy and togetherness. These happy events, often celebrating the harvest or honoring their gods, were full of music and dancing. The rhythms of the drums and the melodies of the flute set the pace for the dancers, who moved with grace and exuberance. These celebrations were a testament to the vitality and spirit of the ancient Egyptians. Imagine a festival for Hathor, the goddess of love, music and joy. The streets would be filled with people, all dressed in their finest clothes, ready to celebrate and give thanks. The air would be alive with the sounds of music and laughter as people danced and sang in honor of the goddess. The air would be filled with the smell of incense, and the streets would be crowded with people in colorful clothes dancing to the music. The vibrant colors and the joyful sounds created an atmosphere of celebration and reverence, a perfect reflection of the ancient Egyptians' love for life and their deep connection to their gods. Whether it was the singing of workers, the music in the marketplace, or the happy melodies of festivals, music was always with the ancient Egyptians. It was a constant presence, a source of comfort and joy that accompanied them through all the ups and downs of life. It comforted them when times were hard, made their happy times even better, and connected them to the world around them. Music was a bridge between the human and the divine, a way of expressing their deepest emotions and their highest aspirations. This picture from a tomb shows us a party in ancient Egypt. The scene is filled with life and energy, capturing a moment of joy and celebration that has been preserved for thousands of years. We see musicians entertaining guests. Their presence at the party highlights the importance of music in social gatherings, providing entertainment and enhancing the overall experience for everyone involved. The details of their instruments, how they sit, and even their faces show us how important music was to their parties. These images give us a glimpse into the past, revealing the central role that music played in the lives of the ancient Egyptians, from the grandest festivals to the most intimate gatherings. Ancient Egyptians didn't just see music as entertainment, it was woven into the very fabric of their daily lives and spiritual practices. It was very important to their religion, serving as a bridge between the mortal and the divine. They believed music connected them to their gods, creating a sacred soundscape that facilitated communication with the divine. They even believed some gods created music, attributing the origins of melodies and rhythms to divine inspiration. Hathor, the cow goddess, was connected to music, dance and joy. She was often depicted with a sistrum, a musical instrument that symbolized her role as a goddess of music. They believed her music was magical and could make both gods and people happy, bringing joy and harmony to the world. Bes, the dwarf god, often shown with a mask and a musical instrument, protected homes and was a patron of music and dance. His presence was believed to ward off evil spirits and bring good fortune. These gods show us how important music was to their religion, as it was intertwined with their beliefs and daily practices. Temples were filled with music, especially during religious ceremonies. The sound of instruments and chanting created an atmosphere of reverence and devotion. Priests, who were often skilled musicians, played music to honor the gods, ask for their help, and keep them happy. Their musical performances were seen as offerings, a way to gain favor and ensure the gods' blessings. The sistrum, a kind of rattle, was often played by goddesses. Its distinctive sound was believed to have protective qualities. They believed its shaking sound kept away evil and brought divine protection, creating a sacred space free from negative influences. Playing music was a sacred duty, a way to talk to the gods and keep the world in balance. It was an essential part of their religious rituals and ceremonies. Musicians, especially those in temples, were important people. They were highly respected and their skills were considered divine gifts. Their skills were seen as gifts from the gods, and their music was a way to honour these divine gifts. Their music wasn't just entertainment, it was a way to pray and offer gifts to the heavens. Each note and rhythm was a form of worship, a way to connect with the divine. The importance of music in ancient Egyptian religion reminds us of the power of music. It was a tool for spiritual connection, a means to express faith, and a way to find comfort in the mysteries of life. It can connect us to something bigger than ourselves, transcending the mundane and touching the divine. Their beliefs, though different from ours, show us how music has always been used to express faith, find comfort, and celebrate the mysteries of the universe. The melodies and rhythms of ancient Egypt continue to echo through time, reminding us of the timeless connection between music and spirituality. This beautiful sistrum, with its carvings and sacred pictures, shows us how much they respected their instruments. Each instrument was not just a tool, but a sacred object imbued with spiritual significance. The shaking of this instrument inside a temple would have created a feeling of awe and reverence, connecting people to their gods. The sound resonated through the sacred halls, a reminder of the divine presence in their lives. The ancient Egyptians were masters of symbolism, and their clothing was no exception. Every garment, from the simplest loincloth to the most elaborate headdress, told a story. These stories spoke of social standing, religious beliefs, and even personal style. Join us on a journey through the sands of time as we uncover the fascinating world of ancient Egyptian fashion. From the bustling workshops of weavers to the dazzling courts of pharaohs, we'll explore how clothes were made, worn, and imbued with meaning. We'll see how linen, the fabric of ancient Egypt, was transformed from humble flax plants into garments fit for kings and queens. And we'll discover how jewellery, adorned with powerful symbols, served as both decoration and spiritual armour. This is the story of ancient Egyptian fashion, a tale woven into the very fabric of their civilization. It's a story of innovation, artistry, and the enduring power of clothing to express the human experience. So let us step back in time and delve into a world where garments were more than just clothes. They were statements of identity, status, and belief. The lifeblood of ancient Egyptian fashion flowed from a single remarkable plant, flax. From this humble source sprang linen, the fabric that clothed everyone from pharaohs to peasants. Cultivated along the fertile banks of the Nile, flax thrived in the Egyptian climate. Its long, sturdy fibres were ideal for spinning into thread, which was then woven into linen cloth. The production of linen was a labour-intensive process, often carried out by women. They would first harvest the flax by hand, then soak it in water to soften the fibres. Next, they would beat and comb the flax to separate the fibres, which were then spun into thread using a drop spindle. This thread was then woven into cloth on a loom, a process that required skill and patience. The quality of the linen varied depending on the fineness of the thread and the tightness of the weave. The finest linen, reserved for the elite, was incredibly soft and sheer, while coarser linen was used for everyday garments. Linen was perfectly suited to the hot Egyptian climate. Its lightweight, breathable nature helped people stay cool in the scorching sun. Moreover, linen's durability made it ideal for garments that would be worn and washed repeatedly. In a land where practicality and comfort were paramount, linen reigned supreme. In ancient Egypt, your clothing spoke volumes before you uttered a single word. Garments were not merely a matter of personal taste, they were powerful indicators of social standing. From the rough linen of slaves to the shimmering finery of pharaohs, clothing served as a visual shorthand for one's place in the intricate tapestry of Egyptian society. At the bottom of the social ladder, slaves and peasants wore the simplest of garments. Men typically donned a short kilt known as a shenti, which was a rectangular piece of linen wrapped around the hips and tied at the waist. Women wore a simple, straight dress called a calasiris, often made from coarse linen and held up by one or two straps. Nobles, on the other hand, enjoyed a far more luxurious wardrobe. Their linen was of a finer quality, often bleached to a brilliant white or dyed in vibrant hues. Men's kilts became longer and more elaborate, sometimes pleated or adorned with decorative panels. Women's calasiris were also more ornate, featuring intricate pleating, beading and even embroidery. At the pinnacle of Egyptian society stood the pharaoh, whose clothing was a dazzling display of wealth and power. Pharaohs donned the finest linen garments, often embellished with gold thread, precious stones, and intricate embroidery. Their regalia included elaborate headdresses, jewelled collars, and even leopard skins, a symbol of their divine status. Clothing in ancient Egypt was more than just fabric and thread. It was a language of power woven into the very fabric of their society. From the humblest peasant to the mighty pharaoh, each garment told a story of social standing and the intricate web of relationships that defined life in ancient Egypt. Jewelry in ancient Egypt was more than just decorative. It held significant cultural and spiritual meaning. Both men and women adorned themselves with a variety of pieces, from rings and bracelets to necklaces and earrings. Gold was the most prized material, believed to be the flesh of the gods. Precious stones like turquoise, lapis lazuli and carnelian were commonly used, each carrying its own symbolism and protective properties. The Egyptians believed that jewelry could protect them from evil spirits and bring good fortune. Amulets, often shaped like animals or symbols, were particularly popular for their supposed magical powers. Even in death, Egyptians were buried with their jewelry, ensuring they would be well equipped in the afterlife. The craftsmanship of these pieces was exquisite, showcasing the skill and artistry of ancient Egyptian jewelers. So, in essence, jewelry in ancient Egypt was a blend of beauty, belief, and protection, deeply intertwined with their daily lives and spiritual practices. The royal attire of ancient Egypt was, well, nothing short of magnificent. Pharaohs and queens adorned themselves in the finest linens, often dyed in vibrant colours. Their garments were elaborately pleated and sometimes even embroidered with gold thread. Accessories were equally opulent. Crowns, headdresses, and an array of jewellery, including broad collars, bracelets and anklets, signified their divine status and immense wealth. These items were not just for show. They were symbols of power and protection, believed to have magical properties. Children in ancient Egypt typically wore simple clothing, often just a basic tunic or a loincloth. As they grew older, their attire became more elaborate, mirroring adult fashion. Adornments for children included small amulets and jewellery, believed to offer protection from harm and evil spirits. Interestingly, both boys and girls wore their hair in a distinctive sidelock, a style that denoted their youth. As with adults, the materials and designs of children's clothing and accessories varied according to their family's social status. Hairstyles in ancient Egypt were quite elaborate, often involving wigs made of human hair or plant fibres. Both men and women took great care in their appearance, using a variety of oils and perfumes to maintain their hair and skin. Makeup was essential, with kohl used to line the eyes, not just for beauty but also to protect against the harsh sun. Footwear, on the other hand, was relatively simple. Most people went barefoot, but sandals made of papyrus or leather were worn by those who could afford them, especially during special occasions or ceremonies. The fashion of ancient Egypt has left an enduring legacy that continues to influence modern design. The elegance of their linen garments, the intricate jewelry, and the symbolic use of colour and form have inspired countless designers over the centuries. Today, elements of Egyptian fashion can be seen in haute couture, jewelry design, and even in everyday clothing. The timeless appeal of their aesthetic, rooted in both beauty and symbolism, ensures that the legacy of Egyptian fashion will never fade away. The Nile, lifeblood of ancient Egypt, its waters a source of sustenance, its rhythm a heartbeat echoing through the ages. For the ancient Egyptians, life was a tapestry woven with music and motion, dance an inseparable part of their world. From grand ceremonies to intimate gatherings, dance punctuated their existence. A celebration of life, a bridge to the divine. Imagine the sun-drenched land thousands of years ago. Hear the echoes of drums and flutes carried on the desert breeze. Picture the vibrant colours, the swirling fabrics, the rhythmic movements of dancers. This was ancient Egypt, a civilization that embraced dance in all its forms. Dance was not merely entertainment, it was a language, a way to communicate with the gods, to honour their pharaohs, to express joy and sorrow. It was woven into the very fabric of their society, a testament to their deep connection with the rhythms of life and the cosmos. The walls of ancient Egyptian tombs and temples whisper stories. Stories told not just in hieroglyphs and carvings, but in vibrant images of dancers. These paintings, frozen moments in time, offer a glimpse into the past. They capture the grace, the athleticism, and the sheer joy of dance in ancient Egypt. Look closely at the murals. Notice the elegant postures of the dancers, their limbs contorted in seemingly impossible positions. See the energy radiating from their bodies, the smiles on their faces. These images are not mere decorations, they are snapshots of a culture that lived and breathed dance. The tombs of the nobles are particularly revealing. Here, scenes of daily life unfold, including depictions of dancers entertaining at banquets. These images show us that dance was not just for rituals and ceremonies, it was also a part of everyday life, a source of pleasure and amusement. The evidence is clear. Dance was ubiquitous in ancient Egypt, permeating every level of society. From the pharaoh to the peasant, everyone danced. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, dance held cosmic significance. It was believed to have played a role in the creation of the universe. The god Osiris, often depicted as a mummified king, was also a god of vegetation and rebirth. His annual festival included dances that celebrated the cycle of life, death, and resurrection. Pharaohs used dance to assert their authority and connect with the divine. They performed rituals and dances to reinforce their status as intermediaries. These performances were grand spectacles designed to inspire awe. The said festival was a jubilee celebration performed by pharaohs after 30 years of rule. It included rituals and dances to rejuvenate the pharaoh's strength. Dance was a powerful tool to connect with the divine and ensure cosmic order. Who were these dancers who moved with such grace and precision? They came from all walks of life. Some were priests and priestesses trained from childhood to perform sacred rituals. Others were professional entertainers hired to perform at banquets and festivals. Among the most skilled and revered dancers were the women of the House of Music. These women, often attached to temples, dedicated their lives to music and dance. They were highly trained musicians, singers and dancers, and their performances were considered to be offerings to the gods. There were also specialized dancers, such as the Mu dancers, who performed acrobatic dances, and the dwarf dancers, who were often employed by the wealthy for their entertainment value. Regardless of their status, all dancers played an important role in Egyptian society, using their bodies and movements to connect with the divine, to entertain, and to tell stories. The ancient Egyptians were masters of adornment, and dance costumes were no exception. From the simplest linen kilts to elaborate headdresses and jewellery, dancers adorned themselves in ways that enhanced their movements and added to the visual spectacle. Female dancers often wore long, flowing dresses made of sheer linen. These dresses, sometimes pleated or draped, allowed for freedom of movement while still revealing the contours of the body. They might also wear beaded nets or vests over their dresses, adding another layer of texture and sparkle. Headdresses were an important part of the costume, often signifying the dancer's role or status. Some dancers wore simple wreaths of flowers, while others donned elaborate headdresses made of feathers, beads, and precious metals. These headdresses, some reaching several feet in height, would have swayed and shimmered with the dancer's every move. Dancers also wore jewellery, both real and costume. Necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and anklets all added to the visual impact of the performance. The jingle of these ornaments provided a rhythmic accompaniment to the music and enhanced the dancer's movements. No discussion of ancient Egyptian dance would be complete without mentioning the music. Music and dance were inseparable, each enhancing and complementing the other. The ancient Egyptians had a rich musical tradition, and their instruments were as varied as their dances. Percussion instruments played a central role, providing the driving rhythms that fueled the dances. Drums of various sizes and shapes were essential. Some were played with the hands, others with sticks. Clappers, cymbals, and sistrums, a type of rattle, added to the percussive texture. Wind instruments such as flutes, oboes, and clarinets provided melodies and harmonies. The flute, in particular, was a popular instrument, its haunting sound evocative of both joy and sorrow. String instruments such as harps, lyres, and lutes added depth and richness to the music. Imagine the sound of these instruments combined with the rhythmic clapping and chanting of the audience. The music would have been both exhilarating and hypnotic, transporting the dancers and viewers alike to another realm. Dance in ancient Egypt was not limited to religious rituals and funerary rites. It was also an integral part of celebrations, festivals, and everyday life. Dances were performed to celebrate births, marriages, harvests, and victories in battle. One of the most important festivals was the annual flooding of the Nile. This event, upon which all life in Egypt depended, was celebrated with great joy and abandon. Dances were performed to honor Hapi, the god of the Nile, and to ensure a bountiful harvest. Fertility dances, often performed by women, were another important genre. These dances, meant to ensure the continuation of life and the prosperity of the land, were characterized by their sensuality and earthiness. They often involved gestures and movements that mimicked the act of procreation. These celebratory dances, filled with joy, energy, and a zest for life, remind us that the ancient Egyptians, while deeply spiritual, also knew how to have fun. Death for the ancient Egyptians was not an end but a transition. It was a journey to the afterlife, a realm where the deceased would live on in spirit form. Dance played a crucial role in these funerary rituals, helping to guide the deceased on their journey and to ensure their safe passage to the underworld. Mourners often performed dances expressing grief and lamenting the loss of their loved ones. These dances, slow and mournful, were often accompanied by the wailing of mourners and the playing of flutes. Other dances, performed by priests and priestesses, were intended to appease the gods and to ensure the deceased's safe passage to the afterlife. These dances were often highly ritualized, involving specific steps, gestures, and incantations. One of the most important funerary rituals was the opening of the mouth ceremony. This ritual, intended to restore the deceased's senses and allow them to eat, drink and speak in the afterlife, involved a series of symbolic gestures, including the use of a ritual adze to touch the mouth of the deceased's mummy or statue. The sands of time have buried much of ancient Egyptian civilization, yet the echoes of their dances still resonate. We find them in the graceful movements of belly dance, a dance form with roots in ancient Egyptian rituals and traditions. The undulating torso, the fluid arm movements, the emphasis on feminine grace and sensuality. These elements of belly dance can be traced back to the dances depicted in ancient Egyptian art. While the exact steps and movements have evolved over the centuries, the essence of ancient Egyptian dance lives on. The influence of ancient Egyptian dance can also be seen in other art forms, from the stylized movements of Egyptian folk dances to the choreography of modern ballets and operas inspired by ancient Egyptian themes. Dance in ancient Egypt was more than just entertainment. It was a way of life, a language, a bridge to the divine. Through dance, the ancient Egyptians expressed their deepest beliefs and connected with the rhythms of the cosmos. The legacy of ancient Egyptian dance lives on in the images carved on tombs and temples. As we gaze upon the pyramids and temples, let us remember the dances that once animated these spaces. Let us marvel at the enduring power of dance to connect us to the past. Beauty, a reflection of holiness. In the golden sands of ancient Egypt, beauty wasn't just skin deep. It was a reflection of holiness, a sign of favor from the gods. The Egyptians believed that a pleasing appearance indicated a pure soul. This belief permeated every aspect of their lives, from their elaborate rituals to their daily routines. This spiritual connection between beauty and divinity fueled the Egyptians' fascination with cosmetics. They weren't merely tools to enhance, they were sacred instruments to connect with the divine. Cosmetics were used to ward off evil, ensure good health, and appease the gods. In essence, applying makeup was an act of devotion. Cosmetics for all, a spiritual connection. In ancient Egypt, the pursuit of beauty transcended gender. Both men and women adorned themselves with cosmetics. This widespread use underscores the deep spiritual significance Egyptians attached to their appearance. Men, women, and even children painted their eyes with kohl, a dark pigment believed to ward off the evil eye. They believed that a well-presented appearance, regardless of gender, reflected a harmonious balance between the physical and spiritual realms. This belief fostered a society where cosmetics were not seen as frivolous, but as essential tools for spiritual well-being. The alchemy of kohl, a chemical marvel. This ancient cosmetic has fascinated historians and chemists alike for centuries. Of all the cosmetics used in ancient Egypt, kohl reigned supreme. It was more than just a tool for beauty, it was a symbol of status, health, and even spirituality. This dark, dramatic eyeliner wasn't just a fashion statement, it was a chemical marvel. The Egyptians believed that kohl had protective and healing properties, making it an essential part of their daily lives. The Egyptians created kohl by grinding and blending ingredients like galena, a lead-based mineral, with other substances like burnt almonds and malachite. This meticulous process required skill and knowledge passed down through generations. The galena gave kohl its intense black colour and acted as an antiseptic, protecting the eyes from infections. This was particularly important in the harsh, sandy environment of Egypt, where eye infections were common. The Egyptians believed that the almond oil helped to cleanse and soothe the delicate skin around the eyes. This oil was not only a cosmetic ingredient but also a skincare remedy, providing moisture and protection against the dry desert air. They also understood that malachite, a copper carbonate mineral, possessed antibacterial properties, further safeguarding their eyes from the harsh desert conditions. This green mineral was not just for colour. It was a crucial component in their eye care regimen, demonstrating their advanced understanding of natural substances. Kohl was more than a cosmetic. It was a part of the cultural and spiritual fabric of ancient Egypt. It was used in religious ceremonies believed to ward off evil spirits and was even found in the tombs of pharaohs, signifying its importance in the afterlife. Today, scientists continue to study ancient kohl, uncovering its complex composition and the sophisticated techniques used by the Egyptians. This ancient cosmetic remains a testament to their ingenuity and their deep connection to the natural world. Healing hues, cosmetics as medicine. The ancient Egyptians were pioneers in the use of cosmetics, not just for beauty, but for health and healing as well. The Egyptians' understanding of cosmetics went beyond aesthetics. They recognized their medicinal properties. They believed that beauty and health were intertwined, and their cosmetic practices reflected this holistic approach. The Ebers Papyrus, an ancient medical text dating back to 1550 BC, provides valuable insights into this aspect. This extensive document is one of the oldest and most important medical papyri of ancient Egypt, containing over 700 remedies and formulas. It details recipes for cosmetics that doubled as treatments for skin ailments and eye infections. These recipes were meticulously recorded, showcasing the Egyptians' advanced knowledge of natural ingredients and their applications. For instance, the Egyptians used red ochre, a natural clay earth pigment, not only as blush but also as a treatment for skin inflammations. This pigment was believed to have protective and healing properties, making it a staple in their cosmetic and medicinal toolkit. They believed that its natural drying properties could help soothe irritations. Red ochre was often mixed with other ingredients to enhance its effectiveness, demonstrating their sophisticated approach to skin care. Similarly, green malachite, apart from its cosmetic uses, was employed as an antiseptic for wounds and eye infections. This vibrant green mineral was ground into a fine powder and applied to affected areas, harnessing its natural antibacterial properties. This merging of beauty and medicine showcases the Egyptians' advanced understanding of natural ingredients and their therapeutic benefits. Their innovative use of cosmetics as medicine highlights a culture that valued both appearance and well-being, setting a precedent for future generations. Today, modern science continues to uncover the wisdom behind these ancient practices. Researchers study the compositions and applications of these ancient cosmetics, revealing their potential benefits and inspiring new approaches in both beauty and medicine. The legacy of ancient Egyptian cosmetics lives on, influencing contemporary beauty products and treatments. By blending ancient wisdom with modern science, we continue to explore the healing power of cosmetics, just as the Egyptians did thousands of years ago. From palettes to pots, the evolution of beauty kits. The Egyptians' love for cosmetics spurred a fascinating evolution in how they stored and carried their beauty essentials. Early forms of cosmetic storage involved simple, functional containers. Over time, these containers transformed into elaborate expressions of artistry and craftsmanship. One of the earliest examples is the Nama palette, dating back to 3100 BC. This ceremonial palette, used for grinding and mixing cosmetics, demonstrates the early integration of beauty and artistry. Crafted from siltstone, it depicts scenes of unification and power, highlighting the importance of cosmetics in even the most significant ceremonies. Tools of the trade applying ancient allure. The application of cosmetics in ancient Egypt was a meticulous ritual, requiring specialized tools. These tools, often crafted from materials like wood, bone and ivory, illustrate the Egyptians' dedication to achieving their desired aesthetic. Coal applicators, for instance, were thin, elongated tools, often made of wood or ivory. These applicators allowed for precise application of the coal along the lash line, creating the dramatic eye look synonymous with ancient Egyptian beauty. Small spoons, carved from bone or ivory, were used to scoop out ointments and creams from jars, ensuring hygienic application and preventing contamination. Status symbols, cosmetics, and social standing. While cosmetics were ubiquitous in ancient Egypt, access to certain ingredients and elaborate containers signified social standing. The use of makeup was not merely for aesthetic purposes, but also a reflection of one's place in society. The elite enjoyed access to rare and expensive ingredients, such as lapis lazuli, a deep blue gemstone imported from distant lands. This gemstone was highly prized and often reserved for the upper echelons of society. This luxurious pigment was used to create vibrant blue eyeshadow, a colour associated with royalty and divinity. The blue eyeshadow was not just a cosmetic choice, but a symbol of power and divine favour, often depicted in the art and statues of gods and pharaohs. The containers for these cosmetics also reflected social hierarchy. The design and material of a cosmetic container could indicate the owner's wealth and status. While commoners used simple clay pots, the elite commissioned elaborate containers made from materials like alabaster, gold and precious stones. These materials were not only more durable but also more visually striking, making them perfect for showcasing one's status. These containers, often adorned with intricate carvings and precious jewels, served as status symbols, showcasing the owner's wealth and influence. The more elaborate and ornate the container, the higher the social standing of its owner. In many ways, these cosmetic containers were as much a part of the elite's identity as their clothing and jewellery, reflecting their place in the social hierarchy of ancient Egypt. Beauty inside and out. The ancient Egyptians' approach to beauty provides a fascinating glimpse into a civilization that valued both the aesthetic and the practical. Cosmetics were not merely superficial adornments, they were tools of spiritual connections, symbols of status, and even instruments of medicine. From the chemical ingenuity of coal to the evolution of cosmetic palettes, the ancient Egyptians' pursuit of beauty left an indelible mark on history. Their legacy reminds us that beauty can be both powerful and purposeful, reflecting deeper cultural values and beliefs. It is a testament to the enduring human desire to enhance our appearance and connect with something larger than ourselves.